Good evening. Welcome to the November 13th, 2023 meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit Board of Directors. This is a hybrid meeting, meaning members of the public can participate in the meeting either in person or virtually. This meeting is being live streamed, and the slide on the screen shows the information on how to join the webinar via Zoom. You can also call in to the meeting at 253-215-8782, and the webinar access code is, wait for it, 837-9338-8162. Would the clerk please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Director Budge.
Here.
Director Daniels.
Here.
Director Hume.
Here.
Director Jennings.
Here.
Director Kozlowski.
Here.
Director Laloe is absent. Director Maple.
Here.
Director Cerna.
Here.
Director Singh Allen.
Here.
Director Valenzuela.
I'm here.
She's
Are-
here.
Okay, you're participating remotely today?
Yes, Director Valenzuela is unable to attend in person due to illness and would like to participate remotely. She, I believe, has done all of the postings correctly, Director?
Chair Kennedy, one thing she needs to establish is whether or not she is alone in the room.
Okay. Director?
Correct. I am alone in the room.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Kennedy.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 10 votes, and this meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption in the webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Friday, November 17th at 2 p.m. and Saturday, November 18th at 1 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to myself or Adam. Once the item has been called, additional speaker cards will not be accepted. The time allowed for public comment is at the chair's discretion. The timer will chime when you have 30 seconds remaining, and then again when your time is up. If you are participating by phone, please push *9 to indicate a desire to comment. If you're joining us through Zoom, please push the raise hand button. Be sure to unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak and voluntarily state your name for the record. Also, please note any written comment that was received by 2 p.m. today has been provided to the board and will be filed in the record. There is the potential for more speakers than the room has capacity for this evening, so when finished with your public comment, if you could please excuse yourself from the room so that others can enter the auditorium.
And it seems like that won't be a problem. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and with that, we will go to item number 2. We have 2.1 through 2.6 on the consent calendar. Is there any member of the board that would like to have any questions or comments regarding any item on consent or pull an item on consent at this time?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Is there, we will be doing roll call votes since we have a remote member. Is there any member of the public at this time that would like to address the board on an item on the consent calendar? Hearing, seeing none, please call the roll.
Director Budge.
Yes.
Director Daniels.
Aye.
Director Hume.
Aye.
Director Jennings.
Aye.
Director Kozlowski.
Aye.
Director Laloe is absent. Director Maple.
Aye.
Director Cerna.
Aye.
Director Singh Allen.
Aye.
Director Valenzuela.
Yes.
And Chair Kennedy.
Aye.
The consent calendar passes with 10 votes.
Okay, item 3 has been dropped from the agenda at this time and will be heard at a future time. So that brings us, I believe, to item number 7.1, Dos Rios Light Rail Station.
Chair Kennedy, do you want to move 7.1 above 6 items not on the agenda?
Yes, I'm sorry, I meant to announce that. Item 6 will follow 7.1. Ms. Ham.
Good evening, Chair Kennedy and
I'm
Directors.
sorry, before we start, Laura, I'd like to just, make a brief statement, and that's that, a lot of has been said, and this is an important issue, and an issue of import to many or most or all of us in this room. But a lot has been said in the last several days, and I would like to set some of that record straight. I have the privilege of holding this gavel only as long as the folks up here allow me to or want me to. And as such, I take that responsibility very seriously. Sometimes it overrides my own personal points of view to make sure that my colleagues are adequately heard and their input is always welcome. This item has all along, since we've been talking about it, we've been talking about it years, but this last several months and talking about the financing of it and so forth, never at any point did this chair say that I was opposed to the project. I am not. Never at any time has this chair said I was going to pull it from the agenda. I never considered to do that. Never did I say publicly have I said that I am opposed to any particular option. What I did say was that the board, and after talking to less than a majority of the board, but a fair number of board members, I did get the notion that we want to see what all of our options are and discuss those. I think that's responsible. That's what the board should be asking for, and that's what we should do in order for the board to have all of the information available in order for us to make a informed decision and be able to provide adequate direction to staff. So whatever you've heard about me wanting to kill this project or pull it or not have it be heard or anything like that is complete fallacy and was never the case. So, Ms. Ham.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy. And at the board's request, we have prepared a comprehensive project briefing on the Dos Rios Light Rail Station project, and we are seeking board direction tonight on a path forward. See if I can get this to work. Can you just- for me?
Jeffrey, your bag is leaking.
There we go. Okay. So we'll go over the project detail, the TCC grant funding a portion of this project, the funding shortfall, strategies to fill the gap, discussion of a substitute project, present alternatives, and then seek board directions and recommendation. Go ahead, go to the next one, please. So I'd like to start with a background and overview of the light rail station project. The new station would be constructed on the SAC-RT Blue Line at North 12th Street between Globe and Alkali Flat stations. The station has been envisioned for many years as part of the City of Sacramento Transformation Plan and Transit-Oriented Development Plans for the Twin Rivers River District area and would be directly adjacent to the Marisol Village community previously known as Twin Rivers. The Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency is the lead for the Marisol Village project and owns the property where the future light rail station will be constructed, where they are currently managing site cleanup. Go ahead and go to the next one, please. Oh, okay, there we go, we're good. In 2005, SAC-RT completed a detailed operational analysis for the Dos Rios light rail station that determined that a station was operationally feasible. The alternatives analysis was completed in 2006. Preliminary design was completed in 2015, and environmental clearance was completed in 2017 for CEQA and 2019 for NEPA. In December of 2018, it was announced that SHRA was the recipient of a $23 million Transformative Climate Communities grant administered by the Strategic Growth Council, with $17.6 million directed to the light rail station project. SAC-RT is a subrecipient to SHRA on this grant. Shortly thereafter, we and our partner, SHRA, began to experience a number of challenges on the project. Beginning in 2020, as SHRA was managing site remediation, they began to encounter much more significant than anticipated remediation needs. Simultaneously, the cost for construction was increasing. As we are now approaching the end of site cleanup, we are prepared to place the project out to bid next month and potentially complete construction in late 2026 before the TCC grant must be liquidated in mid-2027. Go to the next slide, please. The Dos Rios Light Rail Station project is complex due to the current track configuration. It consists of realigning and constructing 1,400 feet of track to straighten the tracks through the station, relocating the turnout further outbound to provide the length required for the platform, and to build the platforms out of the city street. We will also need to replace and move the overhead catenary system along with other components. Let's see if this is going to work for me now. Oh, there we go. Here's a look at renderings from the final design of the station and the site location at North 12th Street and Sproul. $2.3 million in design costs have already been expended to date to our design consultant, paid for by SACRT, as well as SACRT funds that have been used for project administration. The estimated project budget includes $22 million for construction, $8 million for contingency and risk, $10 million for project administration, bus bridges, and flagging, and $3 million for construction site management, for a fully burdened estimate of $43 million. The total actual cost will depend upon upcoming bidding of the contract. In addition to the complexities of the project, due to delays associated with more extensive site remediation than expected, during a time when construction costs were increasing dramatically due to pandemic-related inflation, the cost of the project has increased significantly. We also must address new requirements for the site because of the contamination, which I'll discuss more in a moment. We have been asked on several occasions if we can use the existing track to make the project less expensive. Back in 2006, with the alternatives analysis for this project, several station locations and configurations were evaluated. And to reiterate what I shared in the project description, the current track configuration does not have sufficient room to build a new station, and we need to locate the turnout further outbound to provide the length required for a platform. SHRA owns the property where the light rail station will be constructed and has managed the cleanup of the site known as the Triangle. The cleanup process began in 2019 and was expected to be completed in 2021, but as sometimes happens with previously unexplored sites, it was much more contaminated than anticipated. There were numerous auto-centric and manufacturing activities on the site previously, and it was contaminated with concentrations of lead, arsenic, and other toxic substances. The excavation work also included the removal of previously unknown septic tanks and was so extensive that the site was not returned to previous elevations as originally planned. SHRA is currently awaiting approval of a closeout report from the Department of Toxic Substance Control on cleanup of several remaining hotspots. The site management plan requires specialized training for all personnel working on the site, as well as soil handling requirements. Next steps will include the placement of a temporary gravel cover to allow access to the light rail station property and use of the area adjacent to the station as a construction staging zone. Not only have these delays increased cost and have delayed the construction project schedule, the site management plan requirements will potentially further impact our construction costs and bidding success. So as I previously described the reasons for cost escalation on the project, I'd like to focus for a moment on extensive efforts to apply cost-saving measures. Prior to the most recent estimate, SACRT removed nearly $7 million from the scope by eliminating a backup traction power station and switching system. Staff further went line item by line item to find value engineering opportunities, resulting in a further $700,000 reduction in costs. The current design is the simplest, most feasible station that we can have. SACRT has already reduced the cost as much as possible through value engineering. Other cost drivers that make up a big part of our cost escalation are the flagging and bus bridges, which are essential. Flaggers for work around live track are required by the California Public Utilities Commission. Flaggers are responsible for public safety and for temporary control of railroad traffic, and they ensure the safety of passengers and workers during construction. This project will be constructed on an active rail line. This line is SACRT's main artery across the river to our maintenance and storage yard. Passengers will be transported via a shuttle bus in between stations or on a bus bridge while the line is under construction. Flagging and bus bridges will be required during most of the construction period. We have provided a normal level of contingency and risk to the project, standard for contracts, and as our construction cost is an estimate with other unknowns due to site contamination, this level of contingency may be fully necessary. I would also like to point out that the project cost outlined here does not even reflect the hundreds of hours that SACRT professional staff spent on the project over the past 2.5 years. We have also been asked why SACRT did not put this project out to bid sooner. The primary issue delaying the release of an invitation to bid was that the site was not ready due to the remediation efforts described earlier. Because the site was not ready, our bid package would not have been valid. For a site with soil contamination, professional engineering standards require a completed soil management plan to be included in the bid documents, as well as accurate topographical information and quantities for bid documents. The remediation work resulted in significant changes to the topography of the site and required extensive changes to the bid package. We were continuously communicating with SHRA staff regarding the readiness of the site for resurvey over the summer and had a work order with our contractor ready to go back in July. We could not resurvey the site and get the information we needed until a safe access zone was established on October 9th, 2023, when we mobilized immediately and completed that site survey work on 10/16. Unfortunately, the field work was not all that needed to be complete. Because of the extent of the changes to the elevations of the site mapping and updates to site grades and the bid set are very extensive. The new work order will completely update the 100% bid set, requiring several weeks. The schedule for release is December 15th. As I mentioned previously, today the site is not ready for construction activities because SHRA needs a closeout report approved by the Department of Toxic Substance Control for the hotspot locations. We hope this closeout report is imminent, and once this is done, SHRA will need to lay material and gravel over a contaminated zone that will be used for construction staging. We expect this to be complete prior to construction, but it is still pending. A final note on this topic is that bid pricing is valid for a period of 90 days, so releasing an invitation to bid before a site is ready for construction will result in costly delay claims or an invalid procurement. In early 2023, SHRA and SACRT met with SGC to discuss our project funding shortfall. We identified a project shortfall of $19.2 million. With approximately $23 million in available funds, which includes $4 million in SACRT funds and a project budget of $43 million. Funding options were discussed at that meeting, including future grants. And following the meeting, SACRT and SGC appealed to partners, including the City of Sacramento, to find another grant or local funding to fill the gap. In February 2023, SACRT applied for $20.2 million in TIRCP Cycle 6 funds for Dos Rios as its top priority project, along with 2 other projects associated with light rail modernization. SACRT and SHRA also prioritized the project in congressionally directed spending requests. SACRT was not successful in its request for Dos Rios Light Rail Station in its TIRCP Cycle 6 application, but secured a $5.5 million congressionally directed spending request recommendation from Congresswoman Matsui. The $5.5 million recommendation was later reduced to $1 million in the House Transportation budget. SACRT was notified of the unsuccessful TIRCP application at the end of April 2023 and met with SGC and SHRA in May of 2023 to discuss a path forward. The partners requested an extension of the grant during that meeting, as well as an additional funding allocation to address the cost escalation of the project. SGC explained that due to the budgetary structure of the TCC program, an additional funding allocation was not possible. Although SACRT and SHRA communicated with SGC over the summer, SGC ultimately notified SHRA on July 31st, 2023, that the project was in non-performance status and that SHRA was required to provide an updated project budget and funding strategy. When we communicated with our partners over the summer, we expressed that SACRT has numerous state of good repair and maintenance needs and cannot bear the entire financial burden that has been created because of the delayed project and the current economic environment for construction. At the staff level, it was proposed that SACRT would try to come up with half of the funding subject to board approval, and additional time was requested to apply for future state and federal grant funds. As we noted on the last slide, our TIRCP application would have covered the entire project gap. Staff requested an extension for a period of 2 years to allow time to apply for additional funding through various grant cycles. SACRT and SHRA continue to advocate for additional funding and a grant time extension with partner agencies and elected officials. There was no immediately available funding, and we were not aware at that time that the TCC grant program was ending, nor had the state approved the SB 125 funding for transit agencies at that time. Although we hoped an extension would be granted and a supplemental allocation from SGC would be provided, at SHRA's request, per discussions with SGC, SACRT prepared a substitute transit project that would ensure the residents were afforded a transit option and the $17.6 million in grant funds would not be lost. The substitute project would be subject to SGC's approval, and SGC has made clear that the substitute project needs to be supported by strong community engagement. SGC responded to SHRA's August 29th response with a second non-performance notification on September 20th, requesting further development of the substitute project and a denial of the extension of the grant term. SGC requested to SHRA that given the apparent infeasibility of the project, SHRA work with project partners to prepare a proposed alternative project that would substantially retain the intended transportation benefits and support the community vision and could be feasibly implemented in the grant term and within the project area. So I'll talk more about the potential substitute project later in the presentation. Given the impossibility of an extension of the grant term, options to fill the funding gap and complete the light rail station project before the grant must be fully liquidated in June of 2027 are limited even further than previously understood. As soon as that second letter was transmitted to SHRA and SACRT, the issue was raised at the SACRT Board of Directors meeting on September 25th. This issue was also discussed at the October 23rd board meeting. At that time, the board requested that a meeting be scheduled with the City and County of Sacramento to discuss the shortfall. SACRT staff scheduled a meeting on November 2nd. Senator Ashby and SHRA scheduled a replacement meeting on November 2nd, 2023. At that meeting, a proposal was put forth that SACRT should consider the use of $10 million in SACRT's SB 125 funding, as well as approximately $9.2 million in additional funding to be absorbed by SACRT. SACRT committed to bring the proposal to the board on November 13th, including the SB 125 allocation. SACRT has consistently shared with our partners that we need help filling the project gap. This is not a SACRT project alone. This is a connected community project, and all stakeholders bear some responsibility. We have been asked recently by board members about the structure of our funding plan for the future streetcar and other capital projects. SACRT typically applies for and secures grant funding and uses sources such as developer fees and other SACRT funding as local match for capital projects. Jurisdictions benefiting from the project also contribute funding, such as the Folsom annexation funds that supported the light rail modernization on the Gold Line. We have partners that partially or fully fund SACRT services, such as the Cordovan or the UC Med Center Express, and on the capital side with the streetcar project, where the City of Sacramento and the City of West Sacramento combined contributed approximately $32.2 million to the streetcar project. Generally, when there are cost overruns and delays, grants are able to be extended, and in some cases award additional funding to address the cost overrun. So a recap here of everything SACRT has done to try to address the funding gap. SACRT applied for $20.2 million to the state's Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program Cycle 6. It was SACRT's highest priority project in the application. Unfortunately, SACRT was not awarded funding. SACRT prioritized the project in its congressionally directed spending request, securing a $5 million ask from Congresswoman Matsui. The request is now down to $1 million in the House Transportation budget. SACRT has also cut approximately $8 million in project costs and reduced scope, and we consistently asked for an extension on our TCC grant to allow more time to apply for other grants, as well as assistance in covering the cost overrun. So as you can see from this schedule, staff has been working diligently with our partners over the last year to address the funding shortfall. SACRT worked with partners to secure additional funding and extend the grant deadline. It was not until September 20th that we fully understood that there would be no extension on the grant and that we must develop an alternative project. And here's a summary of potential next steps to complete the station project. with a bid out early next month, a construction contract awarded next spring, and construction complete in late 2026. So here I'm going to hand off to Chris for a few slides to discuss funding options, including the SB 125 program.
Mr.
Thank
Flores.
you, Laura. And good evening. I'm Chris Flores, Chief of Staff, and I'm also joined here with Jason Johnson, our VP of Finance. So this slide shows a summary of the estimated project costs of $43 million broken down by category, along with the details of currently identified funding and total funding shortfall. It is important to note, while options are being discussed to fund the shortfall of $19.2 million, SAC-RT has already committed over $4.2 million to the project and is the only partner agency that has contributed funding to build the station. If SAC-RT funds the remaining shortfall, it would be almost 55% of the total project costs from the agency. As a reminder, the Dos Rios light rail station was included in the FY24 capital budget approved by the board in June of this year. The total project cost was updated at the time to approximately $43 million discussed in today's presentation. The total funded amount in the budget was $22 million, with the remaining $21 million unfunded at that time. Like all capital projects, SAC-RT works diligently in pursuit of grants to fill funding gaps and with project partners that benefit from the project to provide a financial contribution. Additionally, SAC-RT has over $1.9 billion in approved capital projects, of which only $855 million has been funded. This leaves over $1 billion currently unfunded. The majority of the shortfall are state of good repair projects and necessary maintenance of the system. Staff also continues to review existing projects to determine if funding can be reallocated or redistributed based on reprioritization of projects. Sorry, let's see if I... Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So lots of people have asked us to explain SB 125 one-time funding and what it is. At the beginning of 2023, transit agencies across California faced a fiscal cliff due to ridership impacts on fare box recovery and funding uncertainties. One of the biggest uncertainties is a potential decline in sales tax, which funds 2/3 of SAC-RT's operations. Over the course of the summer, through consistent advocacy led by the California Transit Association, public transit agencies were successful in getting funding in the budget this past summer, despite a state budget deficit. SB 125 is one-time funding source passed in response to the fiscal cliff transit agencies are facing. Under SB 125 guidelines, the transit funding flows to the regional transportation planning agencies for distribution among the regional transit agencies. In our region, SACOG is the RTPA. All of the funding comes with new flexibility for regions to direct up to 100% of this funding to meet operational needs of their agencies in their jurisdiction to continue to serve the riders and the communities in the near term. Staff is working closely with SACOG to ensure that SAC-RT receives its appropriate share of funds to address both capital and operational needs. I would like to note that staff had a joint meeting with SACOG and CalSTA to get clarification regarding the intended use of SB 125 funding. A CalSTA official managing the SB 125 program confirmed that while flexibility exists, the priority use of this funding is to maintain baseline operations and to cover funding gaps to that end. Staff has submitted initial funding needs to SACOG, but has not yet received an estimate of the total amount to be allocated to SAC-RT. As I noted, staff will continue to work with SACOG to ensure that SAC-RT receives an appropriate and equitable portion of the available funding. The SACOG regional share of SB 125 funding over the next 2 years is $238 million. As the predominant transit provider in the region, SAC-RT is requesting approximately 89% of this funding. While the majority of the request is to support operational deficits in the out years, SAC-RT is requesting approximately $80 million in maintenance, state of good repair, and capital projects among the 7 categories listed on this slide. The slide shows staff's initial request subject to board's review and strategic guidance. I should note that the Zero Emission Transit Capital Program funds can only be used for zero emission transition or for operations. But even with an $80 million allocated to state of good repair and capital projects, many approved projects remain unfunded in our capital budget. In addition to the existing funding gap for approved capital projects and state of good repair, staff has analyzed estimated operating revenues and expenditures through the end of fiscal year 26-27. Staff has determined that the potential funding gaps exist for the next 3 fiscal years. And based on this information, staff has presented to SACOG with estimates of SB 125 operating requests totaling $130.5 million. The financial information presented tonight is significant in that the funding needs exist for both capital, maintenance, and operational expenditures. While some funding is restricted and can only be used for one type of expenditure, much of the funding is flexible. Funding available to SAC-RT is flexible over the next few years. However, any funding obligated to one project or expenditure now reduces the funding available for any other needs in the future. In particular, one of the most challenging issues SAC-RT has faced in the past was service cuts and layoffs due to operating deficits. Staff understands it has a duty to make sure that we avoid this situation in the future and is being vigilant in preserving operating funds. Now I'd like to turn it back over to Laura.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. So as I mentioned previously, on September 20th, SGC directed SHRA to work with the project partners to prepare a proposed alternative project. SAC-RT prepared a substitute project that would ensure that the residents were afforded a transit option if the light rail station did not move forward. The project has to be implementable in the grant term and retain the intended transportation benefits. The project also has to meet the same standards of community involvement as the original application. At SHRA's direction, SAC-RT began the process of preparing a substitute project that primarily proposed expanded bus service connectivity to the existing light rail and other high-frequency bus routes. Our concept included options to fully expend the approximately $17.6 million in available TCC funding, including capital costs and operating costs, until the end of the grant term. We understand that SHRA is looking at alternative elements such as multimodal transportation options to be included in the alternative project, but based on community input, transit remains the #1 priority. SAC-RT currently operates Route 33, a loop that connects Marisol Village to Alkali Flat Light Rail Station along the Blue Line. SAC-RT's current short-range transit plan calls for Route 33 to be eliminated when Dos Rios Station is completed because it is currently redundant with the service that would be provided with the station. The current Route 33 is shown on the map on this slide. A concept that has received positive community feedback is a redesigned Route 33 that provides improved east-west connectivity, connecting the Marisol Village not only to the Blue Line, but to the Green Line, Route 11, Greyhound, and the Museum of Science and Curiosity. Staff is developing options for the 33, including 30 or 20-minute frequency on the route, extending service hours to 9 p.m. and operating 7 days per week as a potential substitute project. Additional alternatives include options to improve Route 11, Route 142, and the extension of approximately 3 existing commuter bus routes to the Richards Boulevard office complex, although these were less popular options based on community feedback so far. We propose the use of zero-emission 40-foot buses for the service, and the project could include the purchase of up to 10 buses in order to support the expanded service. It's important to note that if the TCC funds are spent on the substitute projects, operations and maintenance costs would only potentially be covered until the grant expires in June of 2027. We could improve the headways even further on Route 33 to 15 minutes or better, but this would result in increased operating and capital costs. All of this would require SGC approval and a grant amendment, and if the community does not support the substitute project, it may not be approved by SGC. Wrapping up here, staff continues to prioritize the construction of the Dos Rios Light Rail Station project, but each of these options reaffirms SAC-RT's commitment to build the project, but seeks direction from the board tonight on one of the following options. Option 1, request an allocation of $10 million in SAC-RT's SB 125 funds and utilize approximately $9.2 million in SAC-RT's other funds to fully fund the project. That would be a total of $19.2 million in funding from SAC-RT, as well as the $4.2 million that has already been committed to the project. Option 2 is direct SAC-RT's SB 125 funds to partially fund up to one half of the shortfall of approximately $19.2 million and continue to seek partnership on the other half of the funding. It's important to note on option 2 that this funding must be committed by December 1st. Option 3 is move forward with the substitute project, which includes the implementation of robust bus service, including augmentation of Route 33 and potentially other routes in the project area with zero-emission frequent service while continuing to pursue new grant funding for the station in the future. That concludes our presentation, and we'd like to open it up for board discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. At this time, I'll entertain board comments or questions. Mr. Cerna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the detailed presentation. One general question as it relates to the last topic that you mentioned relative to the substitute project. What would be the comparable headway frequency, or what could be the comparable headway frequency of a modified 33 versus the Dos Rios light rail, likely Dos Rios light rail headways?
So for the majority of the day, weekdays, our light rail system runs on 15-minute headways.
So it'd be comparable?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
Without objection, I would love to hear from the public before.
I'm going to let the board ask questions first.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, oh,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me ask.
Chair Kennedy,
Where's it?
Director Valenzuela does have her hand up.
Oh, okay. Director Valenzuela?
thank you. Can I ask staff, the bus route that you're planning, is the funding, how long would the funding that you received last to pay for that bus route to be operating at that level?
Our understanding is that the grant must be fully liquidated by June of 2027. So depending upon how long it takes to execute a grant amendment, we're estimating approximately 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so a question here is 2 to 3 years of bus service versus a forever light rail station.
SAC-RT would take any service changes through our typical service change process, including full public outreach and a Title VI analysis, and evaluate productivity of the route. Assuming it's implemented, SAC-RT would commit to continuing to operate the route for a reasonable period of time. And I think that would be subject to discussions with SGC as far as what that commitment would need to be for the expected lifespan
We'd have to
of the
find
service.
additional operational money to keep the bus running past the grant term, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Okay. If I could raise, Chair, with your indulgence, I got a note from the Strategic Growth Council as staff was presenting. Is it okay if I read that for the board briefly?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invitation to Sacramento Regional Transit's board meeting to discuss its proposed response to our September 20th communication. Our team, Strategic Growth Council, has worked diligently with SHRA and SAC-RT throughout the grant term to strategize and support the currently approved project. SGC supported and, at SAC-RT's request, executed an amendment to the grant agreement in May 2022 to extend the project delivery timelines. After conducting multiple meetings with the SAC-RT and SHRA this past year, we issued a stop work order and the first formal non-performance letter. The response letter on August 29th, 2023 from SHRA and SAC-RT did not adequately address the funding deficit and showed the $9.2 million funding gap with proposed corrective actions to secure additional funding. It also proposed to complete the project in 2028 after the grant funds liquidate in June 2027 and demonstrated continued uncertainty and risks as a result of soil contamination, as well as likely increased costs. The non-performance response and corrective actions were deemed insufficient on 9/23/23. SGC also participated in a meeting called by Senator Ashby to discuss the project with all project partners. Upon the meeting closure, there was an agreement from SHRA and SAC-RT to move forward with a revised timeline and budget to deliver the Dos Rios light rail station. And as a reminder, this amended corrective action plan must be submitted no later than December 1st, 2023, and include all of the materials discussed already tonight. I thought it was important to read this, Chair, because they weren't able to make tonight's meeting, unfortunately. And SGC, I just want to make clear, has given a very firm commitment as of a couple weeks ago with Sacramento Regional Transit and SHRA in the room to continue to work with us to try to get this project out the door. But we are really up against a timeline where option one is the only thing that's going to make sense. Obviously, if more funding becomes available, that would be great. I don't know if your cities like our city are looking at potential significant budget cuts to core city services starting next year if we don't find new revenue sources. And we have committed millions of dollars to this project. I think it's unfair to look at the light rail station in isolation of the bigger TCC project for which the light rail station is a part. And both the city and the county have committed millions of dollars to that affordable housing, to the cycle track on 12th Street, to all of the improvements around making sure this project is as successful as possible. So I will defer more comments until after public comment, but just wanted to say that December 1st is literally a couple weeks from now. This money, I know we had a lot of plans and hopes and dreams, but SACOG hasn't even budgeted the money yet from the SB 125. We have no idea how much money SAC-RT would be getting from that money. And the fact that they are willing to work with us to use some of that money to fill this gap is really the only feasible path forward here at this time. So that will conclude my comments for now, Chair. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Director. And it's your prerogative, but if you could send that communication to the clerk so we can make it part of the record, that'd be great. Thank you. Director Laloy.
Thank you. Just a few questions. On the SACOG piece, where the RT is requesting 89%, right, of the funding, the SB 125, what are the odds of us being able to increase that from 89% to, maybe 91 or 93% to cover this gap?
So that was just an initial submittal of needs, as not so much as a request at this point. So we're putting that out there and saying these are our projected needs over that time frame. Right now, SACOG's not being transparent with us. They're not providing us that information as to how much we're actually going to be allocated, what is available to SAC-RT. Once we have that information, then we'd be able to better answer that question. We're kind of working in the dark on that a little bit right now.
Sure. And according to, I think, Councilman Valenzuela, I think there was a meeting where SACOG was there at the meeting with RT, and there was some conversation about this. Did they make any commitment in that meeting to see if they can
So our
help us with that gap?
participation in that meeting was specifically to get clarification on the intended use of the SB 125 funds. Is that?
I think you're referring to a different meeting. I think you're referring to the meeting with Senator Ashby.
Yes.
And we, as you can see in what we presented, we've already requested $10 million for the Dos Rios session, but still leaves us with a $10 million gap. During that meeting, we committed to bring it back to the board to discuss this option of the funding gap and our SB 125 request.
So we don't have any commitment.
The SACOG
No, we're still
director and staff were there, and they did commit to making this happen if this was RT's request. That
Director Valenzuela,
obviously pending.
Director Valenzuela, I'd rather this not be a, complete back and forth, get into a debate. As you said, you have an opportunity to make more comments later. You're welcome.
Sorry, I think you were asking did SACOG commit. Got it. So SACOG, James Coros said, yes, we do have a pot of money. This project would meet the guidelines, and he gave a kind of a.
But I just want to make sure we have a pot of money. Is it they're committing that we can take some of the funding that we're going to get for RT for other purposes and deduct that from that funding to apply to this project? Correct. Or is it, hey, we will give you the money that you need for your, whatever maintenance that you need. In addition,
No, there wasn't like a discussion of off the top, this project first, and then in addition, no.
Has that brought up to them at all, or?
We have mentioned that to SACOG that we believe if we would love to have this project off the top, we would love to get our fair share based on the ridership and population formula. It brings the money into the region based on the various advocacy at the state level.
And then just going back to the bus ride where Board Member Valenzuela brought up a great point, saying once this $17.3 million is ran out, would that route still be inputted in the budget of RT, or would that route be deleted once the budget runs
Our proposal is that that service would be maintained for a reasonable period of time, and we need to work through the public process as far as what level of service would be provided. But our proposal is we would continue to provide a bus service.
And there is a bus service that goes through there already, correct?
Yes, the Route 33.
Route 33. And my apologies, I was late, but what's the ridership on that route right now?
I believe it's fairly low. I'm gonna look. About 100 passengers per day. But it's a circulator, really just connecting services to the Alkali Flat Light Rail Station right now.
That's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Just for the gentleman that asked if you could make a statement right now, everybody's going to have an opportunity to speak. Right now, I've asked the board to have an opportunity because I think we can flesh out some of the details that might answer some questions that the public might have. So I will be calling on you later in the evening. Mr. Cerna.
Thank you, Chair. What I didn't get a great sense of from your presentation, what are, if any, of the prospective trade-offs if we were to go with option one relative to funding state of good repair? I mean, can you give us a flavor for what that means? As our agency's title suggests, we are a regional agency, and we have several cities and a county here. What does it mean for the entire system if we choose to go with option one?
I can't speak to a specific project, but in general, as we noted, we have over $1 billion of unfunded projects of state of good repair at SAC-RT at this time. So any money that we allocate to one project tentatively restricts it or takes it away from another project then. So there is a trade-off, and it's still going after funding. It's a matter of what funding would be available in the future. A lot of that's unknown. And whether there's different colors of money that become available,
right.
And so different money has different restrictions, and what we can go after for Project A, we may not be able to apply to Project B. The money that we're talking about for SB 125 and some of these other funds, they have more flexibility at this time, which allows us to then move it to one project or another. Mm-hmm. So whether that flexibility exists on future funds is unknown.
Henry, can you give us an example of what a possible trade-off might look like?
I think Laura can do better because she knows all these projects.
Okay. I'm trying to come at this with eyes completely wide open because I want to understand if we're going with option one tonight, what are the consequences of that besides, I think, achieving what we all love to see, which is an additional station where it should be to our light rail system.
So really that funding is flexible, and we would be able to use it as match to apply for other competitive grants. And our highest priorities right now are the continued conversion of our light rail station. We have a number of stations on the Blue Line that are currently unfunded. We're going to be going after funding for Blue Line to low floor. We need to convert from 2-car to 3-car platforms on the Gold Line. We need to continue the procurement of light rail vehicles. We also have our mandated zero-emission vehicle transition by 2040 that we need to begin progressing and have a large funding need there to replace 600 to 700 vehicles. Other projects, we have other expansion projects that we would be pursuing and other state of good repair projects as well.
Okay, so not to suggest I'm hyper-parochial here about the supervisorial district I represent, but it's a big district, and it proudly includes Marisol Village and the prospective light rail station, but it extends all the way down to Florin Road and all the way up to the Sutter County line. That's quite a bit of the entire system. So for someone like me who's thinking with both hats on, how best to kind of consider what's in front of us, does that mean that there could be other disadvantaged, economically challenged areas that need service enhancements as well that maybe we might have to forego?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Daniels.
Just a clarification, I think that the number was used that 100 people used that 33 to get over to Alkali Flats. About how long does it take to get from that line over to Alkali Flats on a bus?
Pretty quick.
10 minutes, roughly.
5 to 10 minutes.
Thank you.
That's the answer. Yeah, it's 30-minute headways on the route today.
So, anybody else? Any of the board members? Laura, so to follow up on Director Cerna's question, so one of them could be, it could impact the BRT plan in Stockton Boulevard, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And I heard, from Director Valenzuela, and I had put words in your mouth, but I believe I wrote it down quickly, so I think I got this right. And that's that, we have, and I whether she said it or not, I think it's the case. We have no idea really how much money we're going to receive from SB 125 at this point, correct?
That's correct. We're estimating, as we're providing approximately 90% of the service in our region, that we would be competitive for approximately 90% of the funds, but we don't know that yet. We really don't know that. I believe the SACOG board is going to take action in December
And
on the first year.
And if the 33 changes were to happen, and you talk about electric buses and all of that, when would that, what was the soonest that could be initiated?
Potentially up to 18 months lead time to procure new vehicles. And simultaneously, we could be amending the grant. So I would say 1 to 2 years for implementation.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Director Laloy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with the bus line, it'll take about 1 or 2 years to get it implemented. I just want to make sure I understand. The light rail, how long would that take, let's say in a perfect scenario?
So we're estimating that construction would be completed at the end of 2026, December of 2026.
On the light rail?
On the light rail station.
But the bus route, it will take longer than that?
No, a little sooner.
same.
Yeah, probably about the same, maybe a little sooner. Hard to say at this point, as we haven't started the process to procure vehicles or amend the grant, but I would imagine it would
I
be
have
about
one
that
last
long.
question, sorry.
Sure.
I know we have a deadline of December 1st, right, to kind of let the state know which direction we're going.
Yes.
Is there any way that we could get an extension so we can hear back from SACOG to see how much is actually granted to RT?
I don't know if that's an option at this point. Previously, we've been told that there would be no extension.
Thank you.
Okay, before I move, I see no one else at the dais. Before I move to public comment, I wanted, since I have vision issues, I wanted to see if Director Valenzuela has her hand up or anything.
Sorry, were you asking me if I wanted to add
Yes,
anything?
yes. Just give me an
thank
opportunity.
you.
I can't see if you have your
Yeah,
hand up.
I will say for folks who weren't at the November meeting that Senator Ashby convened, it was agreed that, we would make this vote tonight, that there would be a letter submitted by the 1st, and that SACOG would work to secure the funding shortly after that. And then the only way this project actually finishes in time logistically is if we issue the bid next month, which means that we've secured the funding next month. So I don't know if that answers part of your question, Sean, but yeah, I'll chime that in and just say for the record that like option 2 or 3 not only don't work because we don't know where we'll find that much money in just a couple weeks, but I will say from my own 2 cents that would be really big damage on our side, mostly reputationally, if we're worried about funding for other projects and other state grants. I'm really worried about what us failing to deliver on this project would mean. This is one of the biggest projects that SGC has ever awarded in any region. And our success here would do a lot for our reputation and our competitiveness, just like what we've argued with federal money and are concerned about ruining our reputation with FTA, with things like the streetcar. I don't think that circumstance is much different here when it comes to option 2 and 3. So that'll be it for me, Chair.
Thank you, Director. And Director Laloy.
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
No, you're Chair.
You've had a bite at your apple already.
I'm sorry, just to clarify what I thought I heard, that we have to give notice of which direction we're going by the 1st of December. But was there really an implication that we have to go out to bid immediately also without adequate bid documents?
So we are attempting to maintain the schedule, and we're preparing the bid documents and releasing it by December 15th. That will also allow us to get actual construction costs so we can understand the full extent of our shortfall and need for our contingency on the project. we can simultaneously get the bid documents ready while we're awaiting final approval of the funding.
And so you actually have, have enough information about the site at this point?
Yes.
To develop adequate bid documents?
That's correct, yes. We were able to resurvey the site on October 16th.
Right.
And so our contractor is in the process of updating the bid set right now.
Okay.
So it'll be ready to go.
Great, Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify, I think I heard this earlier, but there's been a lot of talk with the TCC and the SGC, and then what happened with the Congresswoman Matsui's request, and this meeting that took place, and SACOG's commitment to find funding is really SACOG's commitment to reprioritize funding that would otherwise come to RT for a different purpose. Is that correct? This would not be new money put on the
That's correct.
table?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No, the right side seems a little slow, so, okay. Yes, sir.
So just out of curiosity, so we don't have a bid for this project yet. So how do we know that there's a shortfall of, can we call it 10 million? That's our shortfall, right? 10 million?
Yeah, so engineer's estimate, I had the expenditure plan up on the screen here for earlier, but the engineer's estimate for construction is $22 million. That's based on actual bids received for the Folsom 15 project, which is a comparable project with construction of new track and a station platform, relocation of a platform. So we are fairly confident in our estimate at this point. We also have estimates built out for project administration, the flagging that I mentioned, and bus bridges, and we have already gone out to bid on our construction management contract, so that's an actual cost of $3 million that's built into the project.
Also, one last question, I promise. Director Valenzuela brought a very good point that if option A or option 1 is not voted in tonight, that would jeopardize future potential grants for RT. Can someone give a little background on that? Do we see a risk on that, or I'd like to get a clarity?
I don't know if I can adequately answer that question. The grant program that we were funded through is going away as part of the state program, so we won't be eligible for this particular program in the future. I think that there's always a fear that perhaps it would damage our credibility if we didn't pursue the project. But the options that we put in front of you, we do continue to progress the project in one form or another and ensure that those funds are expended and we're able to meet the commitments of the grant.
So if we go with the bus route, would the state frown upon us that we didn't commit to the original project and we...
The SGC asked us for a substitute project.
Oh, okay.
So...
Thank you.
Director Cerna.
Thank you. Just on that subject real quick, I just want to make sure it's clear, though, and I totally agree with Director Valenzuela about the possible damage, I guess, to our reputation. I mean, that's speculative, but, you can kind of connect those dots. But what I thought I heard loud and clear, though, is that the $10 million that would be provided through option 1 is $10 million that can and should or would be used as seed money for match for other grants. So if we don't have that available, is that a more tangible example of our ability to actually apply and succeed for future grants, much more so than the speculation that our reputation is damaged?
I think it's difficult to say one or the other. I think, our hope initially was that we would get an extension on this grant and have the opportunity to apply for some other grants and leverage these funds. And we thought we would be competitive in future grant cycles, but we just don't have that opportunity to extend the grant. So it's a balance of fulfilling our commitment on this project or with a substitute project and our potential competitiveness for other state grants in the future.
But again, in terms of making sure we know as precisely as possible what the trade-offs are tonight with the various options, if we go with option 1, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing from you that we'd have a lack of resources to pursue future grants to take care of, state of good repair and other operational needs. Is
That's
that
correct. We'd have reduced flexible resources
Okay.
to pursue other competitive grants and have as much match as we had hoped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before we go to public comment? All right, then we will now go to public comment. I have several cards. There will be 2-minute limit, and start with Jeffrey Tartagia. Jeffrey, do you need a microphone? Or where are you? There you are. Are you good, Jeffrey? You need a microphone.
Let's see if this works.
Okay.
Is this recordable? Connie and the others, can you hear me?
There we
Can
go.
you hear me? Yeah. Okay. As a number of you point out, last minute, last hour, this is what, should we say, when we last did with Henry's, report, is we need to have more knowledge about what's going on. I mean, you may say that you only had since July or August to know about the soil mitigation, but that seems like something else is missing. I do agree with what I've heard so far about that you're really stuck with proposition number one because anything else is less feasible. The other thing I will say is I don't see any consideration for what you previously had of Route 15 to offer accommodating for the facility, although you wiped that out, that portion of the section, but it was previously existing that would accommodate a great deal of the transportation needs. The other thing you don't mention is that 33 has been only a Monday through Friday, and it's only been to the normal hours of, 7 in the morning until less than 7 at night, and it can only transport less than, 20 people at a time, and only one, disabled electric wheelchair, if that. So there's a lot of shortcomings in here that you haven't talked about, much less the time of what you were talking about already of an alternative. And I'm sure disappointment for the whole factor of that this is what you promised when you created and you didn't allocate enough funds to see that it would happen, even though you supposedly put a contingency in there of $20 million, yet apparently that was not adequate to deal with the complications of this project. You've got others like this, you need to figure them out far better. And one of my recommendations is you seem to need for your planning or some department of construction a 3D printer. And I'll stop with that public comment.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. And next up is former board member Jeff Harris.
Nice to see you all. As you may know, I was council member for the River District for 8 years and worked closely with Lachelle on Mirasol Village. Congratulations on all the hard work you've done to get Mirasol to the point where it is. I see a couple of imperatives here. One is that you not lose the strategic growth council money. I think it's very important to be able to use that through the alternative program that you need to create or to allocate it via option one. The other is that mobility for the River District is really what we're talking about here and how to achieve it the quickest, the most effectively. So here's what I would propose. I really think that option 3 is the best way for you to go in terms of preserving funds for RT to move forward on various projects and keep this system running well. But you can't neglect the mobility options for the River District. So in creating the alternative proposal for SGC, be very vigorous about that and create a bus route that will serve the needs of the people. But here's the other thing that I hope you would do in a motion, is to direct the manager, Henry Lee, to continue to pursue grant funds to build the Dos Rios station. It can be a win all the way around to get mobility for the River District through buses in the shorter term, and then find through TIRSIP or other grant possibilities money to build the Dos Rios station in the future. That's what I think is the best way through this to thread the needle. So don't lose the SGC money, get the bus route up to snuff, and then build the Dos Rios station, but commit to doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Next is Catherine Canepa. I believe I said that correctly, but feel free to correct me if I butcher your name.
Thank you. You did get it right. Appreciate that. Thanks for hearing our comments tonight. I work for Civic Thread. We're one of the partners on the TCC grant that funded the Simple project. I would like to urge you to vote for option 1 to leverage those SB 125 funds. The station not moving forward, which would be the case with option 1 and, option 2 and 3, would be a really dire setback for the city and the region. Mirasol Village in particular, but the River District as a whole, lacks good transportation options. Without a personal vehicle, residents cannot leave Mirasol Village on weekends and evenings unless they have a car. And the inconsistent and unsafe bike and pedestrian infrastructure means that active transportation isn't an option either. A light rail would be permanent, consistent, and high frequency, and that is a really critical project. To get to this meeting, which is on the grid and should be highly accessible, we had to hire a special bus to get residents here to provide public comment on transportation that would highly impact their lives. This is an equity issue. Not having these options means that residents are cut off from services and employment, and it would just provide a really critical connection to other locations in the city. Failure to deliver on this project, I believe, will really damage relationships between Sacramento and the community more than they have already been done, to the point about reputational damage. In addition, I would like to echo the concerns that this would jeopardize future funding opportunities. Essentially, I'll just wrap up by saying that the other options are effectively stopping the project. Option 2 is really the same as option 3 and will result in a loss of $17 million that was promised to this community. So asking the board to endorse option 1 and take the steps necessary, we really do need to figure this out. It impacts people's lives in a very real way. And it's about honoring promises that have been made and securing the future well-being of the River District. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe Robustelli.
Hi, thanks for letting us speak on this. I'm Joe Robustelli. I work for Alchemist CDC and the community at Mirasol Village. I have dinner with them twice a month. So they're not just people who I help with the garden, they're people who are friends. And I urge you to vote for option 1 on item 7 tonight. This is the only option that will result in the Dos Rios station being built. I had a bunch of stuff from the narrative that was written by SAC-RT about this project, about how it was going in the first year alone was going to add 200,000 riders to the system. And then in the 2005 study that was done, how the Route 33 was the most utilized route in the system. Well, Mirasol Village, the Dos Rios went away. So of course the route went away and now there's 100 people riding it. Well, it ends at 5:30 and it has no availability on weekends. So it's hard to say what it is now and compare it to what it was 3 years ago when no one was living there. And now the residents who are here don't really use it. One resident who comes from Folsom, she stopped here, she has to walk over half a mile on North 12th Street, which is not safe. They improved, the bike lane has been improved there, but it's still not safe because there's tents in the way. They are basically cut off from life after 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday and all day on weekend. More than half of the residents do not have a car or access to a car. They can't go to appointments. Now, as far as the alternatives, please be aware that the 17 million, that will all not go to SAC-RT. There is one option of the 4 that were presented that is acceptable to both the residents and the project partners that need to totally support the option, and that is the 33 expansion. The other ones aren't even in play.
Thank you. Reggie Foster.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement with the 33 expansion. The bus operates from about 6:40 in the morning until 5:30. and I have a difficult time walking to Township 9 to catch the number 11 bus so that I can get to do some grocery shopping and things like that. I have to do like hurdles to get to places and stuff like that. And I really need to get to markets, and we need other things to, places to get to. That's why we need that 33. So my thing was brief.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Laura, can you just answer a quick question to follow up on that? Would the expansion of the 33 allow access to the Green Line via the Township 9 station?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. And you could also connect to the Route 11 there as well.
Thank you. Yes. Sure.
Would the intent also be that, in addition to the headways being adjusted for convenience to 15 minutes or less, is the expectation that the alternative would, in terms of modifying the 33 route, would also be to expand to weekends and hours of the day?
Absolutely. Today it runs till 5 p.m. We're proposing right now that we could expand it until 9 p.m. and run it Saturday and Sunday. And those elements of the service expansion could be implemented fairly quickly with the existing fleet. Increasing the headways even further and extending it at the same time would require new vehicles.
Thank you.
I just have a really quick clarifying question. Thank you very much. So I want to make sure I understand this point. So for the SGC funds, that 17 million, I know it was stated that they asked for alternatives. Do we know for a fact that if, for example, we decide to go the busing route, that money will be able to be used for that purpose, or is it a possibility that we can lose it entirely?
I think the substitute project would have to be accepted. It would have to be supported by the community. That piece was clear. They very much have emphasized that there has to be community engagement similar to the development of the entire project. I understand that SHRA is looking at some other elements to include in the project to get to that total of 17.6 million. But based on the feedback that we've heard in the many meetings that we've participated in, that transit is the highest priority. So we assume with the procurement of additional vehicles and the expansion of several routes that we could get close to expending that full 17.6 and maintain that funding.
But it's still possible, though, that SGC could come back and say, we don't actually accept this proposed alternative.
That's possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to ruin the flow here.
No, there is no flow.
I know. It's an eddy at this point. So I just want to be clear, especially given the testimony that former board member Harris provided. Does option 2 foreclose the possibility of a Dos Rios light rail station?
Option 2.
Yes.
With RT providing half of the funding and
Right.
another partner providing half of the funding. With option 2, we would need a partner to come forth with funding by that December 1st deadline.
And how is that different than from option 3? Because it seemed to,
Option 3 is we would move ahead with progressing a substitute project rather than, and then pursue new grants for the construction of the light rail station.
and that's based on the assumption that the substitute project would be accepted?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Laloy, do you do this all the time?
I try not to. So again, my apologies. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So the 17 million is guaranteed if we go with option 1. At this point, there's not going to be any maybe or a no, we change our mind. That's a guaranteed.
That's
Whereas
right.
option 3, the 17 million is not guaranteed. We hope that they approve with a substitute route.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you
That's
very much.
correct. I would say, one caveat, with option 1, we do still need to go out to bid. We need to get our construction bids in and be successful and maintain our schedule. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair.
The Vice Chair, please.
I just want to make sure, because I heard there are 3 options here, correct? And it
Yes.
sounds like to me, based on the conversations and the many questions and the answers, that we are looking at option 1, because we don't want to lose the money, but also combining it with option 3, which is moving to Route 33.
No, it would be one or the other.
That's not what I've heard.
That's not what it says, actually. What it says is that the short-term plan would be to enhance Route 33.
Until the station is
long-term
built.
plan would be
Until
to
the station-
continue
Right.
pursuing
Yeah,
funding
yeah,
for the
yeah.
station.
I mentioned in the presentation, though, that SAC-RT's current short-range transit plan envisions that the route would go away once the station is constructed, because it's currently duplicative. But we have been talking to the community about expanding the hours in the short term.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that the options that we're talking about, because we've talked about community engagement. Have we already had that community engagement? Is this engagement we're going to have going forward?
It's been engagement that's been led by SHRA with the community in the affected project area. SAC-RT would still need to follow its service change process and do full public outreach and solicit comment and do a Title VI analysis before a service change takes place. So there would be, we've done a portion of it, and SGC has clarified that that could continue past that December 1st deadline, but they're looking for initial feedback and an outline of a plan.
Okay.
And Laura, if
ahead.
I may, just to comment on the funding availability, the SGC in that November 2nd meeting was clear that they wanted us to do a parallel path if possible, because there's very real possibility that you may not get any bids. They may come in over and you still have a funding gap. And so they want us to submit that corrective action plan and alternative project by December 1st.
Yes, sir, Mr. Laloy.
Sorry again, just question. If we go with option 3, can we simultaneously get bids for option 1? And if during the time we need to pivot, do we have that option without spending any part of that 17 million?
Yes, thank you for that question. So yes, and SGC has actually asked us to pursue a parallel path, that if the board should approve funding for the light rail station, that we need to continue to hit our milestones and get our bids in and award a contract this spring. And simultaneously, we would be looking at the substitute project if the light rail station does not happen for whatever reason.
Would it also be accurate if it was vice versa, that if we go with option 1 and then realize that the cost is going to be much greater than this 40 million, can we pivot and go to option 3?
I think that would be subject to the decision of the Strategic Growth Council, but there's some potential for that, I think. Yeah.
Chair Kennedy, Director Valenzuela also has her hand up.
Director Valenzuela.
Thank you. I will say that based on the conversations with Strategic Growth Council, it really comes down to similar GHG reductions. That 17 million was based on a GHG reduction projection for the light rail station. So bus service would probably not qualify for the full amount of money. And so that's just a caveat that was discussed. I will ask staff though, have we recently reduced service on 33? I saw an announcement in September 2022 that we were shortening hours. Is that to your recollection?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think there's been any changes to Route 33.
Okay, so this announcement that I'm seeing might be wrong.
I'm looking at my planning team over here. No changes. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Is that all, Director Valenzuela?
Oh yeah, I guess I was just gonna say that obviously if we've reduced service on a line in the term of this grant and then try to use this grant to bring the service back up, that we might be accused of supplanting resources. And so I just want to make sure that cautionary tale is on the table as well.
Okay, thank you. We're talking zero emission vehicles, right?
That's correct.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
zero emission buses.
Okay. If there's no one else, we'll go back to public comment. Billy J. Baker.
Thank you. I'm a resident at Marisol Village, and all I would say about the supporting the light rail is the safety issues that I have. If you have to live at Marisol Village like I do, you have to walk to Alkali Flat on weekends to catch the light rail. Well, after certain hours, the pathway is not adequate. It's not adequately lit. It's not safety, required if you are by yourself. And the light rail station would be a great plus for the community because due to safety concerns, we have a lot of issues through there. So that is my main point on this is the safety of individuals having to walk, and of course, being disabled makes it that much harder to get to the light rail stations. As on weekends, the buses is not that adequate out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kiara Reed.
Thank you for allowing me to make these comments. My name is Kiara Reed, and I'm representing Civic Thread. We appreciate you guys for allowing us to come here today and present and urge you to vote on option 1 for item 7.1. As the chair mentioned, there's been a lot of conversation about this project, particularly in the last few months and days. In these conversations, option 1 has always been shared as SAC-RT's main priority and what would be presented tonight to this board for a resolution at this meeting. Option 2 has never come up. It's not been included in any recent conversations or been vetted by community. By voting for option 2 or 3 tonight, SAC-RT is not even guaranteed the full $17 million. On that note, I'd like to read SAC-RT's own stated value of respect, and I quote, "to communicate clearly, respectfully, and honorably in a way that would make my family proud, to my colleagues, and to my customers." Has that value been honored? The Dos Rios Light Rail Station is a critical means of connecting residents to essential destinations. While personal vehicles are an option for few, many community members, and particularly those that are low income, rely on active transportation and transit, but currently do not have safe or accessible options for either. As others mentioned, our region has historically underperformed in securing state and regional funding, and fumbling this award should be avoided at all costs and runs the risk of future funding down the pipeline. Moving forward with option 1 is really the only path forward to ensuring that $17 million, and is the only thing that is vetted, truly vetted by the community members. Again, I urge you to vote for option 1 and follow through with the commitments you've already made. Thank you for consideration of these comments. We look forward to working with SAC-RT and all stakeholders to get the Dos Rios Light Rail Station to the finish line as promised.
Thank you. Devin Strecker.
Good evening, SAC-RT board members and staff. Thank you for having me here. My name is Devin Strecker, and I'm executive director as well as a resident of the River District. We're deeply concerned and disappointed that the promised construction of the Dos Rios Light Rail Station is currently in jeopardy. The station was planned and grant funding was obtained to coincide with the construction of Mirasol Village to provide mobility and transportation options to the residents of this expanded and revitalized community. But it's about more than Mirasol Village. There are currently 4,794 residential apartment units either existing, under construction, or planned within the River District. This amazing transformation has occurred due to the hard work and advocacy of many civic leaders over the past 25 plus years. The River District represents the most environmentally and economically sound development opportunity in the Sacramento region. The future of our climate depends on getting people out of their cars and reducing greenhouse emissions. The River District is committed to building a sustainable, inclusive community, and Mirasol Village is at the forefront of this effort. The fact that the Dos Rios Light Rail Station, which was scheduled for groundbreaking over half a year ago, is now in danger of being delayed, perhaps indefinitely, is a betrayal to the many stakeholders in the community that have supported this project over many decades. The Growers District, the Village at Dos Rios Hobby Condos, and the Alchemist Public Market, Sacktown Eats, and Pint Works are all projects that spurred investment and interest in the River District in Sacramento based on the promise of the Dos Rios Light Rail Station. The fact that we're now debating whether or not to use the millions of dollars awarded this project as planned is alarming, and it's clear that if the light rail station loses its funding, it will further create community distrust and may steer developers out of the area. I urge you to please put this train back on the track and approve staff recommendation for option number 1. Thank you.
And thank you, sir, and thank you for the cheap pun. Greta Layson, please.
No way. Good evening. My name is Greta Lichin. I'm the president of the River District Board. Our board has long anticipated the building of this station for decades, really, and we view it as an essential building block for our future. Your board is aware that the River District is undergoing a huge transformation from a former industrial and warehouse district into a largely residential one. This station will be essential to those residents. You have to be aware that this station represents mobility equity for our neighbors in the Mirasol Village, and parking has always been
tremendously problematic in the east end of the district where this station will go. Really, there's no places to put parking. Projects like the Growers District, a very important district that will add hundreds more people on North 16th Street, will require transit, and they will have to be reliable transit. Importantly, both the city and county have made commitments to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and this project will fulfill that mission as well. I'm asking you tonight to make a solid commitment to building the Dos Rios station. And it sounds like you have some important options in front of you. I hope you will choose well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robin Ayers. Welcome, Robin.
Hey. Okay, I'm here to express my support for this light rail project, option 1. I spent over 4 years working with residents of the former Dos Rios Twin Rivers Public Housing Community and the now Mirasol Village community as an employee of Urban Strategies. During my time working with the households within the community, the light rail has been an integral part of how the Mirasol Village project was promoted by SHRA and others. There have been many meetings asking residents over the years for their input on the project, as well as many by SHRA to promote the great opportunity this would be for residents upon returning to Mirasol Village. Many residents pondered whether or not to return to Mirasol Village due to the lack of various community amenities such as grocery stores, as Mr. Foster actually mentioned briefly. And there were certainly some who chose not to return for this reason. In addition to this, the light rail connected to the Mirasol Village project was promoted with the idea of improved, environmentally efficient transit, as well as increased opportunity for people in the community. The alternative of option 2 would not meet that those promoted results. So I definitely ask that you support option number 1.
Thank you very much. Akalina Sharp.
Good evening. I'm new at Mirasol Village. I just moved in like 5 days ago, and my first board meeting was the other day at Mirasol Village, and there's a lot of challenges here for you guys. I understand that, and I see that the construction or the architect is very beautiful for the light rail station, right? I come from Folsom, like the gentleman said, and I ride the bus. I ride regional transit daily, 7 days a week, from Folsom to now to Mirasol Village and out to the pocket area. In Folsom, they had one line track, okay? That worked just fine for a lot of years, right? So I see that you guys have on your agenda, can we use the same track? I believe you can, honestly. I mean, the construction looks beautiful, the architect is beautiful, but we got to think about the money. We got to think about the need, right? And the safety of the customers and we don't want to be walking at night from Township 9 to Mirasol Village. We don't want to be walking from Alkali Flats at night from Alkali Flats to Mirasol Village. It's dangerous for single women, single men, men with children, and women with children. It's very, very dangerous. Those are what I want to express tonight. I didn't want to give them my opinion, just my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and you're always welcome to give your opinion here. Reg Hartwell. Or Rhea Hartwell, I believe. Okay.
It's Rhea.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Rhea Hartwell. I live in downtown Sacramento. I have a garden plot at the Mirasol Village Community Garden. Since its inception, the garden has hosted community events, and it's grown to include a number of residents of Mirasol Village and the people in the broader Sacramento community. These events provide opportunities for families and others to gather in a really beautiful space, and it's an amazing reflection of the community. Since I've been involved with Mirasol, we've been looking forward to the installation of the light rail. I know there are many in the Mirasol Village community who have been looking forward to this and rely on public transportation every day. For the community to thrive and grow, it needs a permanent and reliable transit option. I'm very concerned about the promised construction of the Dos Rios Lightsail, the fact that it's threatened. This community deserves better public transportation. Right now, it's a very isolated area for those who cannot drive or who do not own a car. And I urge all of you to think about the repercussions of not supporting this community, and to please support option 1 and fund the light rail station. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Josh Kohlenbrenner.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Kohlenbrenner, and I am the head of development at Bowen Capital. For those unfamiliar, Bowen is a family-run investment and development company who owns multiple properties around Sacramento, one of our largest being the Growers District. The Growers District sits a few blocks from the proposed Dos Rios light rail station on 16th Street. Growers District is a historic mixed-use development consisting of over 120,000 square feet of retail and the potential to build over 530 residential units. In addition to the millions we have already spent cleaning up the property, Bowen is preparing to invest over $250 million to see this development through. This investment would create the retail and residential spaces for a thriving new River District ecosystem. However, a large part of the investment was predicated on the assumption that the critically lacking public transportation infrastructure would be addressed via the construction of the Dos Rios light rail station. Given the current market conditions, this investment was already becoming tricky. If we were to lose the light rail station and the access it brings for our 500 plus future residents and 100,000 square feet plus of retail workers and shoppers, the chances that Growers District development moves forward are slim, if still existent. Two of the other options before you kill the light rail station and set the River District back for years. For that reason, Bowen, along with all of our future residents, retail workers, and shoppers, strongly urge you to support option 1. By doing so, you will not only show your support for the River District, but also for the colleagues on the private side who are strongly devoted to substantially investing in this underserved area that is so close to its renaissance. So please support the River District's future by supporting option 1.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's the end of my comments. I just wanted to say one other thing based on kind of some notes that were said. Before I worked for Bowen, I worked for one of the largest general contractors in the country. We worked on a lot of public and private transportation jobs. Typically, you hold 5-10%, maybe if you don't know the design for a contingency. We're holding 40% on contingency and another 50+% on general conditions. That's insane. So we're searching for $10 million when I don't think that's the number. So I just want that to be considered here.
Thank you very much. Director Laloy.
Hey, just a quick question, if I may. The 500 units, when do you anticipate that project to be completed?
We're probably 3 or 4 years out from being completed.
So by 2027, 2028?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Sarah Blinko.
Mike, please.
Oh, can we get a microphone over here?
Mike, please.
Yes, we're getting it to
I'm
you.
not standing and talking.
Sarah, we're getting it to you.
Thank
you. You got it.
All right. My name is Sarah. I've been living in Marisol since mid-May, and I've used public transportation as long as I can remember. But there's real problems. The 33 doesn't go at night. It's barely. There's not a lot of space to it, so it can barely take a chair. So that's not a really good option. What is a good option is to go forward with the light rail, because I'm literally wheeling at night to Alkali Flat with a headlamp in a chair and with pepper spray just in case something happens. I should not be this scared to go out places and do things past 3 or 4 in the afternoon, especially nowadays. So honestly, without the connection of the light rail, I'm still going to be wheeling 0.8, 0.9 miles just to get to a light rail station if I wanted to go somewhere on a whim. I should be able to go somewhere on a whim without having to use my other resources. And that public transportation's been my main resource since I was 16. So I would like there to be some change for the people of Marisol and the future people of the River District, because the River District is awesome, and I can't say enough good things about it and how great it's going to become. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thanks for being here tonight.
That was a lot of words.
You did great.
Without even thinking about it.
Well done. I know the River District people liked it. Howard Jones. Howard's back in the corner.
Hello, my name is Howard Jones. I've been a member of Dos Rios for over 30 years. Before it was torn down, I even worked there. I was once president and treasurer of the resident council. When opportunity came to my front door, they were getting ready to do something different in Dos Rios. I told the man, tear it down. We need a new start. We need a new light rail station. This is maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago. And we've got the new buildings. They're filled up, but we have no light rail station. I was the guy that was taking people to and from Dos Rios, Del Paso Heights, Citrus Heights, South Sacramento, Elk Grove, shopping, visiting friends, to the movies. They called me the Uber guy. But what I'm saying is, now we're an island again. We're desolate. The 33 isn't good for nothing. I mean, if you get more than 10 people on there, it's nowhere to sit because it's too tiny. And I drive and ride a bus. So if I have to get there, if I want to get to somebody's front door or get somebody to a door, I drive. But I'd rather use a bus and light rail more. And I don't like feeling like I'm on the island. And so we started this 6 years ago. It's been approved by the city council before. Can we get approved again? That's all I ask.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Sandra Sully.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm a resident of Marisol Village. I am new to the project. It was a godsend, and I think that it will continue to be a godsend for the next at least 5 to 10 years of my life. I am a federal service worker, and I work literally 2.5 miles from Marisol Village. I absolutely will not try to walk there. It is dangerous. There are people, there's a bike trail there, but people use the bike trail to sleep in. There is a lot of dangerous activity. I have encountered a person impaled on a fence. There's just a lot of things going on. I urge you guys, one of the main positive things about Marisol Village was the ability to have a light rail station being built there. It was something that I was absolutely looking forward to. I want to participate in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but I cannot even consider the idea of not driving the 2.5 miles to my office. It takes me maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I would consider the idea of extending that time frame if I could find safe transportation to get to work. And at this point, it's not a possibility. So I urge you to continue the path towards number 1.
Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate it. Lachelle Dozier, you did not have to wait as a partner, but I appreciate you.
So, I was there from the beginning. And when I first came to work at SHRA, I didn't know Dos Rios existed.
We don't need to run the clock on Lachelle.
Okay. And when I came to work there, I didn't know Dos Rios existed because I drove past it a million times growing up. And when I found out that there was a community there that had been isolated, that was in an industrial area and had been overlooked for a very long time, I knew that we needed to do something. I knew that we needed to do better by the residents there. In 2007, we came forward before the city and county with a whole asset repositioning, and we looked at all of our developments. Dos Rios was the one that came to the top for complete renovation. We worked hard. We got funding. We brought in HUD to give us that seed money. And a part of HUD giving us $30 million to start the transformation was to look at how we could connect it back to the community, how we could make it something more than a forgotten public housing development. And a part of that was the light rail. A part of it was the ability for people to get to where they needed to go. There's a boys and a girls club. I didn't understand why the children at Dos Rios didn't go. And it was because they couldn't walk down to the Boys and Girls Club because they didn't have transportation. They didn't have access. They had to walk through exactly what everyone is talking. And if I were a parent, I wouldn't let my child walk that far to go to a Boys and Girls Club. So it really was a part of the overall vision that we had for that neighborhood that we have been able to start delivering on. We've been able to secure over $300 million of funding to really start and make sure that we built the housing that we said we were going to build, that we built all the connections with all the people that we said that we were going to do. But a key part of this thing is transportation. Transportation and that light rail station was always a part of that vision. It was always a part of the promise that we made to the residents. It was a part of how we got SGC to buy into our vision, to put $17 million worth of money on the table. And now for us to be talking about doing something different, it really is heartbreaking to me because this has been my life's work. This has been the project that you only get once in a career. And I'm so proud and happy that I've had an opportunity to do that. But I really see that building this light rail station is the culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of promises, and it really delivers on the things that, frankly, we had not delivered on for a long time in that community. And with that being said, I just really want to urge you to move forward with option one. I know it sounds good to talk about doing something later, but that's how we got to this point. If we were always gonna fix it, we were always going to do something more later for Dos Rios. And until you, city and county, said that this was our time, this is when we needed to step up, this is when we needed to commit our resources, then later became now. And so what I'm asking for you tonight is for later to be now, as far as the light rail station is concerned. We can do this, we can move forward, we can fill these gaps. And we can do that to deliver on the promise that we made for these residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Lachelle. Director Laloy.
I'm sorry. Howard, Ms. Dozier, I just had a question. I can't do this in city council, so I'm trying to get it out of my system before tomorrow night. Isn't there an additional project that your department is also looking at within that area? Is that something we could just hit on?
Yes.
Think it is a very important project, so.
Yes, if you're referring to the future housing.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the light rail station is a transit-oriented development where we will build housing. So we have spent millions of dollars, and I know that there was mentioned that, we hadn't, but we have. We spent millions of dollars, number one, to purchase the Triangle site. We spent nearly $2 million to clean up the Triangle site. And once the light rail station goes in, we are going to build senior housing on that site. I can't build the housing until the light rail is put in because you have to have the light rail first. It's not a chicken and an egg. We need the light rail first, and once that is in place, then we can actually go to maybe up to 100 more units of much-needed senior housing on that Triangle site, and that's a part of the vision.
And what's the timeline on a project, a wonderful project like that? What are we looking at?
Once we know that the light rail is under construction, then we will have to finish the further cleanup of the rest of the site. But then we will also start going for the funding for the future housing. So,
again, what estimated
so we're looking
time?
at another 3-4 years from the time frame that the light rail goes in.
And at that time, when we're asking for funding for future housing, is there any opportunity to ask for possibly some additional funding for operation of the light rail or anything towards
Those are usually different types of funding sources that we go after. So transportation funding is really different than housing funding, in all honesty.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you see anything in the near future that we could ask for additional funding that potentially would come back to RT for this project.
So are you asking the question, are we looking at finding funding to build the light rail station?
Well, we have a gap of approximately $10 million here. I'm just trying to figure out, are there any other buckets, whether now or in the future, that we could utilize to cover this gap?
Well, one of the things that was very clear with SGC is that they wanted to see that we had a path forward by December 1st. And so part of that meeting that we had on November 2nd was to look at this $10 million gap. And then that's really where the whole issue with SACOG came in terms of putting a placeholder. So the first thing was to come here to get agreement on that. The second thing would be to send a letter to SGC. And the third thing was for SACOG to put in a placeholder on December, I think it was around December 8th or 7th, for the $10 million.
And that's different from the SB 125 funding.
That is the same.
It's the same. So it's not an additional funding, it's just a matter of reallocating 10 million from SB 125 funding to this project.
I don't know if it's reallocating or allocating.
Or it's going to take away from the 89%.
It will be a part of.
It will be part of the 89%.
That's a way to look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kay Harris.
Good evening, Chair and Board. I too want to clear some things up. I've been included in a couple of emails, which you have received with my name and information in there. And so tonight I want to clear up a couple of those. One of which that was in the email that you received was that I was a Mirasol Village resident. Our prior conversations, I had not shared that. My pronouns were we and us. I spoke for the community as far as the needs of the 33 bus route, and I did so in a way that didn't put me at the forefront. I was advocating for the community, and I wish I had the support of those here today when I did so, but here I am. Today I speak for 50 households. I too was at the meeting on November 2nd, facilitated by Senator Ashby, and I was given a task, and I met that task. Here I have over 50 signatures of residents from Mirasol Village. They couldn't be here today. Along the edge of this clipboard states the reasons why, and I'll just name a couple. Childcare, work, school, not having a vehicle, unable to move, childcare, work. I stand here not just as a Mirasol Village resident, but a proud graduate of the Los Rios District 2013. And I was able to do that with the collaboration. I attended summer classes at Folsom. I attended summer classes at Sac City. My primary education was at the Los Rios American River College. And with all of that together, I was able to obtain my degree in legal studies. But had it not been for all of those colleges, I would not have been able to do that.
Can you wrap up, Ms. Harris?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I thought we were family and I could go beyond the time frame.
Well, you don't know how I treat my family.
Oh, goodness. I smiled at the last meeting. I guess I shouldn't have. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm going to tell you what the benefit of your vote will do. It will provide school and education for the residents of Mirasol Village. It will provide employment opportunities for the residents of Mirasol Village. It will provide access to medical. It will provide access to grocery stores.
Thank you,
because we live in a
Ms.
food
Harris.
desert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sam Greenlee.
Thank you, Chair and Directors, for this opportunity. My name is Sam Greenlee. I'm the Executive Director of Alchemist CDC. We are one of the partners in the Simple project. Joe spoke earlier from the community garden. We are also developing the Alchemist Public Market right by Mirasol Village, inspired largely both by Mirasol Village and the impending light rail station at Dos Rios. I had the privilege to be in some of these meetings that were mentioned, and I'd just like to note that on the alternative track of the substitutions, that I know it was presented Route 33's enhancement and expansion. The alternatives presented by SAC-RT staff actually compiled 4 different projects together to meet the full 17 million. The Route 33 was 3.7 million of that 17. And so there were 3 other projects. One is a commuter line to the Richards Boulevard office complex. One is better headways on Route 11. One is a bus stop at Mozak to the airport. As the surveys have gone out to the community and the town halls, the community has not been interested in those 3 projects at all. So of the 17 million, the bulk of that, about 14 million, is not of interest to the community and does not have the support of the project partners, seemingly. Route 33 is popular. It's not nearly as popular as the light rail station, which has been consistently communicated as the first priority of residents and partners. And of course, people expected that that would be a permanent fixture. They didn't realize that may have a 2-year limit before having to find additional funding. I also want to note that this project has been in development since 2005 formally. These substitutions have been concocted within the last month. It's been great effort. It's been amazing work to see what people can do in that amount of time. But there were almost 2 decades of community input developing the original plan. We have $17 million from the state ready. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam. Eugene.
Hi, my name is Eugene. I'm a freshman, and I would like to start off by saying that I need the light rail because, okay, let me focus. I need the light rail because so I can get around to see my friends. Say I wanted to go to DOCO to see my friends, and sometimes my mom is not always able to take me and up to the task. And sorry to get off task, but a lot of people benefit from the light rail, like trying to go to work or trying to get a job, or so they can get a job so they can go to work. And I'm pretty sure as a young man that I am, I would like to get a job before I'm 16 and not having to depend on my mom to take me to work or and use the resources that are around me. And I would like to, I would, stop stuttering. I want to say thank you for allowing me to share the benefits of having a light rail. Thank you.
Thank you. Eugene?
Great
Eugene,
job.
You did great.
Yeah.
You like your mom, you're welcome here anytime.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just not family.
You're getting 1 minute next time. Lisa Humphrey.
My name is Lisa. I'm in 9th grade. Getting a light rail close to my home will help out a lot because I go to school in the north, and this one light rail will get me there. I would like to have some more independence, and this will help me a lot for my mom to feel comfortable sending me by myself to meet friends and school. I have anxiety with driving, and a light rail will help me and others that have the same anxiety or problem. It'll help them out a lot too. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here tonight. That is, unless I'm mistaken, the last card that I have for public. Yeah. Okay, I don't have a.
You should have had 2 Lisa Humphreys.
Oh, I assumed it was an accidental duplication.
No, me and my daughter.
Okay. Got it.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a resident of Mirasol Village. I also was there before they tore us down. One of the main reasons why I came back was because of the light rail. Me and my family goes to school and we work in the north. This one light rail will get us straight there.
as my daughter told y'all, she have anxiety of driving. She's about to hit the driving age and going to work and things. And this light rail will help out a whole lot for her just to get there. And two, I can work out with her, helping her drive and things like that. The 33 do not work for my family. We have to be out by 6 o'clock in the morning to get to school and work, and we're not home until after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So walking from the light rail, and I have a son with autism, so special needs children dealing with that, walking to light rail and back is very hard. It's a big task. That's it.
Thank you very much. I believe that brings us to a close of public hearings, so at this time.
Chair Kennedy, there are 4 people online with their hands up.
Thank you. Okay, I can't see them. Who do we have?
We have Daniel Washington.
Daniel? Daniel, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, terrific. Again, my name is Daniel Washington. I'm District Director for Senator Angelique Ashby and also a downtown resident. We stand here tonight firmly behind the comments that were previously made by Executive Director Dozier regarding option 1 to build the light rail station. We also shared a support letter with the board. I hope you guys all got a chance to look at that, and we are in strong support of option 1. With all due respect to RT staff, it's important to be clear about the funding that was discussed. It's been asked several times, what will happen to the $17 million if we choose bus routes over light rail? I've heard RT staff give this board some level of assurance that the funds are not tied to a particular option. That is not true. Let me be clear. The funds are tied to option 1. Any other selection tonight jeopardizes the funding and will require legislative action by Senator Ashby. That's essentially why I'm here tonight, to urge a vote for option 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Rick Hodgkins.
Rick, welcome.
Hands up.
All right, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Rick.
All right. Well, I
Audio now on.
support option 1. And in saying so, I want to point out that the vast majority, or the people I know in that office complex on Richards Boulevard, that they usually drive to work, and even if they don't, they take light rail. I'm talking about the California Highway Patrol substation over there, as well as the Sac PD substation over there. I know that the Highway Patrol also has another office down on 9th and P, or is it 9th and R? But nevertheless, I support option 1. And I heard Laura Hams say that, it will be the tail end of 2026, particularly December of 2026, before the rest of the light rail system has been modernized and modified. Let's support option 1. It could open up. Let's support option 1. Let's find a way to fund it. And that in turn can allow us to find the funding for the rest of the system. As a handful of you are aware, Directors Kennedy and Cerna, as you are aware, as Director Hume is aware, about 8 years ago, back in 2015, that the extension of the South Line to CRC opened, and all their stations are. Those last 2 stations, or however many stations were built 8 years ago back in 2015, those are already modernized because they allow for the low floor car vehicles. So hopefully we can get it up sooner. And because I'm concerned about the dangers associated with the construction at light rail stations like Matherfield, Whatnot.
You can wrap up, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Director Valenzuela, I believe you have your hand up. Are you waiting after public comment, or would you like to speak right now? After public. Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay, so we have L. Lam Ewan.
L. Lam Ewan? Okay, next.
Okay, there was a hand that went up late, Mariah.
Mariah. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh. Okay. Hi, I'm Mariah Bell, and I just wanted to get up here to basically to get you guys to support option one because, like everybody else stated, it's a good option for the community. It's not just about the light rail station, the money, all that. It's about the families over there. It's about the kids over there. It's about the people that need jobs, that are trying to find jobs, that can't find jobs because they don't have no car, that can't find jobs because they don't have no money to pay for an Uber. So we have to be a community and support them. I'm not a resident there, but my mom is a resident there, and she wanted me to be a resident there with her, but I told her no. Because I can't get around. I don't drive. I don't want to drive. It doesn't intrigue me. So, right. So, I do support this. Like, it's a very efficient and easy way to get around. I just got a job in the state building downtown. And I got on the wrong light rail coming home. So, they put me over there out, whatever flat, right? And it was dark, and I had to stay on the phone with my mom because I don't have no pepper spray. I don't have no knife. I don't have nothing that's gonna protect me but me. So, like everybody else, it's very hard. And being a young lady, pretty young lady, it is very hard. It makes it very hard. So, like everybody else, I am in agreement with that because it's not just about one thing. It's kind of a lot of different things, and if we can't see that as a board, then I don't know what we're looking at.
Thank you. Thank you. And that apple did not fall far from the tree.
And then, Chair Kennedy, there is a Sean Wright with his hand up. There was a comment sent in earlier, written public comment.
Okay, Sean.
Good evening, board members. I'm Sean Wright, representing the Alkali and Mansion Flats Historic Neighborhood Association. We did forward a letter supporting the Dotesville light rail station option one. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get the station completed. Failure to fund this project at this time would put the future of the station in serious jeopardy. Putting this project on hold will make the station have to compete with much higher profile projects like funding for the Green Line to the airport, station at the soccer stadium in the rail yards, and many other light rail extension projects. Please live up to the decades-long commitment made to the community and deliver the Dotesville light rail station this evening. It will help transform the River District into a sustainable transportation destination neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
And L. Lamb Ewan has his hand back up.
Ellen Ewan. Thank you. Litty? Litty, are you there? Are you muted? Okay.
We can't hear anything from this side.
Liddy, are you there?
Are you talking to me, Chair? Sorry.
No. We have one caller who would like to speak.
Yeah, I don't think they're speaking.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that all? Madam Clerk, that's all?
That is it.
Okay, thank you very much. Then, at this point, we will bring it back to the board, and Director Valenzuela has her hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I think for all the comments made and for all the people who took the bus and made it down here today, I know it's not easy. I'd really like to move us to approve option one tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We do have a motion. We have a motion and a second, but we have a lot more discussion, I'm just guessing, or questions from the board.
No, it's not necessary. Just vote. Just vote.
Director Valenzuela, can you mute your phone, please?
That's not me, sir.
Okay.
That's Mr. Wright.
Is there anybody on the board has any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate all of the comments from everybody and everybody that took time to come out here tonight and weigh in on this. I don't, obviously was not involved in the sort of origin story that was so well laid out as to how we got to this point, and it's unfortunate that so much was discovered during the process that made it more expensive and made it delayed and got us to where we are here today. But I guess I look at two things. One, sort of the fiscal picture of what's on the table and what RT is being asked to do relative to some of the other funding partners, as well as the connectivity piece of this. And so in the original proposal, RT's commitment was $4.24 million. And now, under this current option one, that would swell to $23.44 million. And so, in my math, to spend $23.44 million in order to secure $17.55 million doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I think that being what it is, I would support going forward with the option that looks like expanding the transit network that would serve not only the Blue Line, but also the Green Line. And sort of my caveat to that, to say that I am committed to this station, and I do believe it has been promised and it should be delivered, is to somehow make sure that this is at the number one priority for RT's capital projects list going forward. But for me, back to that $23.4 million to chase after $17.5 million, when you're looking at a budget of $1 billion of unfunded projects at RT level, and you have the state backing the Strategic Growth Council dangling 17.5, and then Congress, not being able to make up the difference. It seems like our larger partners are putting all of the share onto the local agency, and so I won't support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Dr. Mabel.
All right, thank you, Chair. First of all, I just wanted to say I am really impressed and surprised at the number of young people that came here to speak today. I know that that's not an easy thing to do, and so to come and speak from your experience and speak in front of a crowd is a really cool thing to do, and I appreciate you, and I'm really glad that you're here. And I hope this isn't your last meeting, because we do talk about a lot of other fun things as well. I also really wanted to thank you, Ms. Dozier, for giving background. I'm new to this position and really getting the historical perspective of not just the last year or the last several years, but really the last couple of decades, and you've been doing this work for a really long time, is helpful for me. Because when we talk about community trust, which is one of the things actually that SGC is interested in too, right? That you're going to support an option that has community support. So not just any option. And we know, based on what I heard here today, I think everyone who spoke here was, except for maybe one speaker, was in support of option number one. And so I think if we're going to keep our community trust, that means that we have to keep our promises. And a lot of those promises are made long before, some of us were in these positions, and but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep them. And then I also just really wanted to uplift, I thank you, Daniel Washington, for speaking on the senator's behalf. But for those who didn't have a chance to read through her letter, I think she makes a really good point. With due respect to my colleague, it's not just about dollars and cents, right? This is also about equity, right? We're talking about many of the reasons that were brought up here today. People need access to jobs. They need access to school. They deserve opportunity. And again, as a young woman who has felt sometimes unsafe walking around the city at night, it's important that those spaces be accessible to all of us. And so, I think it's about all of those reasons. She states in her letter, this station will provide much needed access to the SAC-RT transit system and contribute to significant ridership growth in the surrounding community, thereby increasing mobility for thousands of residents while decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. That means that this is fitting in with a lot of our goals. It's not just the dollars. It's about all the other things that we say are important to us. And this is a part of that plan, not just the fact that it's been promised, but that it actually fits in with everything that we say we want to do in the future. And so that's why I'll be supporting this today. And I hope that my colleagues will join me. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Singh-Allen.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone that reached out to me personally, and then also thank you everyone that joined this evening. I will start off with saying that I support Dos Rios Light Rail Station. That 100%, I am on board with that. Some of the concerns I have with that same equity lens is how to fund that gap. So the stakeholders that would be a part of that, what services would be cut, they didn't have an opportunity to come and speak this evening, but there would be a real consequence based on our actions or inaction. But I am very concerned with having that $1 billion shortfall, which includes the modernization project and state-mandated transition to zero-emission fleet. So putting a light rail before having the zero-emission fleet seems like it's a little out of order, to me anyways. But I understand fully that mobility is freedom. Mobility is freedom. I'm very familiar with this area. Once upon a time, I actually worked for the Nehemiah Community Reinvestment Fund, way back in the day when Township 9 had another, I don't know, something 65 or something. I don't know. I'm dating myself. I'm old. But I'm very familiar, and I know that this is a high-needs area. And very familiar the days when I worked for the late Mayor Joe Cerna. So I understand the community needs. I've been very close to that, to this part of the community. But being a regional, I want to do what's best for the region, and being a regional mayor is very important for me. But that question, and I ask this of the board, where will that money come from? What will be cut? That has not truly been vetted. So in wanting to move forward with this, I want to move forward with this, but what will be cut? Anyone? What will be cut? So I'm not prepared to make an affirmative vote on this, not knowing what will be cut, what services, what other impacted communities, because if we're going to ask the equity question, it's all encompassing. There are other high needs areas as well. So I support option 1 in theory, but it is hard for me to have an affirmative vote on something when I don't know the full impact of that vote. Those communities of needs as well. So that's important for me. Number 3, option 3, has, I think, the maximum flexibility that we can pursue with getting our funding from the Strategic Growth Council, as well as having another option on the table, but not foregoing light rail. That's not being eliminated here from the discussion. It's ensuring that we get funding for expanding this robust Route 33 route, which I think would meet the needs of the community. But at the same time, we would still be able to pursue funding for light rail. One thing I do know of our CEO is he is gifted at finding those dollars. We've seen that. Now, I've only been on this board under a year, but I have seen him find the money, the grants. So I continue to have faith in believing that we will meet those needs. But I just can't, in good conscience, support something without knowing the full impact of the cuts. And I think that's, that for me is very troubling. And then SACOG's commitments, we don't actually know what those are because that vote hasn't taken place yet. So, a lot, it's a gamble a little bit. But not knowing, where they are and how we would actually get the funding, we could be actually in a more troubling scenario, not knowing where all of the monies are coming from. So at this point, I'm really ready to make a motion for supporting 3 as a substitute motion for consideration.
I'll second that.
Who was that? Okay.
I'm a strong proponent of process, good governance, transparency, and I just don't think this is the best way that we should pursue capital projects. This was a little messy, and there was a lot of miscommunication from many stakeholders and parties that I've talked to and reached out as part of my due diligence. And so that also becomes a part of the narrative that I just not a big fan of how this process unfolded. A lot happened over the course of 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And part of the missing component, what's being cut? I think that analysis is critical. So with that, I will close my remarks for now and reserve the right to add further comments if necessary.
You always have that right. Thank you, Director Singh Allen. Director Budge.
Thank you, Patrick. I will speak in support of Bobby's substitute motion. She's asked a very important question, what will be cut? But it may, the companion to that question is, what won't happen? You don't go anywhere in Rancho Cordova without encountering the light rail. You always have to wait somewhere to have light rail go by. And it has been a very long time, as staff well knows, since there's really been much of anything except 2- and 3-car trains running even during commute hours. When we don't go on and purchase the new vehicles, I mean, it doesn't do us any good to build a station if we don't have enough light rail vehicles to stop there. And, you know, there's no question that this board has supported both the Dos Rios station and the Horn Road station for a very long time. I mean, Horn Road goes back to the beginning of light rail in the 80s, as you know. And we want to see all this happen. We do want this system to fulfill the promise that it was supposed to fulfill all those years ago. But if we don't have enough cars that are actually mechanically willing to run down the track, then we really can't afford to spend money that should be dedicated towards that.
Thank you, Director. I believe Mr. Kozlowski's first and next.
Thank you very much. I guess I'd like to just echo Mayor Singh Allen's comments in short. The unfortunate thing is that everybody that spoke this evening is absolutely right. The urgency is there, the need is there, the freedom that it affords is necessary. And through no fault of anybody in this room, the cost escalation that has occurred for construction projects over the last 5 or 6 years has been extraordinary. And unfortunately, that's the thing that has moved the goalpost on the finish line moved the finish line for this project. In a rush to reprioritize all of the capital projects that RT has considered and has been planning for, if we were to make this change that's been requested tonight, we would be moving the goalpost or the finish line on potentially dozens of other projects with equally worthy users of RT services. The one thing I will add, though, is a challenge, because I'm inclined to support Ms. Singh Allen's measure as well, is that the one thing that was kind of most alarming to me tonight was the idea that the enhanced service on Bus Route 33 would take a year or more to get in place. I really, really believe that if we put some concerted effort into that, that should be able to be done a lot faster than that, even if we do it on a lark to see how it works and get it going in the next month or two. That seems like a much more appropriate short-term solution while we try and hash out what the long-term solution is. And I will also sum up and close with a commitment to making sure that this station does get built, but doing it in the way that we have tried to change the priorities on short notice, I think, is inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Daniels.
Thank you very much. You know, I read all the letters that were submitted up till 4 o'clock when I had to head on in. I heard all of you, which I love when people come out and speak. Nobody didn't say anything that didn't matter. It really does matter. It all matters. But I think a couple of things were missing from this conversation. And one of them is that this is the Sacramento Regional Transit System. It's a regional transit system. It's not the Sacramento Transportation System. And so, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but what I mean is that I live in Citrus Heights. I live in the most densely populated area in the Sacramento region. Guess who doesn't have light rail? Citrus Heights. So if we want to move people in, that lady down there in Elk Grove too, yeah. But we live in the most densely populated area, and which means a ton of people head off to work every day, head off to school every day, want to go somewhere and have fun every day, and they don't have an opportunity to do that. You know, if they don't want to get in their car, if they don't want to, use some other transportation system, they don't have a light rail system. You know, they don't even have one that they can get to on a bus line within a few minutes. It takes quite a while to get to the closest one, which is Watt and 80. And there were some comments about concerns for safety in getting over to the light rail station here in Sacramento. And I hope my good friends from Sacramento heard that. I really hope they heard that, because that needs to be addressed. That totally needs to be addressed. And it's being ignored, and that's a shame. But if you go to the light rail station on Watt Avenue, because from Citrus Heights, and you want to go in the morning, and then you're going to get home at night, and now when we changed our time, you're going to get home, it's going to be dark. And the way that station lays out, you may have to walk for about 10 minutes just to get to your car. And so you talk about concerns, and there's an extremely undesirable population in that area. And so we're the Sacramento Regional Transit Center, and so far there's I'm not hearing any discussions about how do we move our light rail out in that direction. You know, how do we take the money that all of those taxpayers are paying too, and make it a regional transit system. And so that's kind of missing, and I think that's an important consideration too. The fact that this project has just exploded in cost cannot be ignored. You can't just ignore that, and it is a dollar's game at some point. The polite way to say it is stuff happens. Stuff happens. And a couple of years ago, I don't think anybody could have perceived what would happen. We saw COVID happen. We saw just rampant, disgusting, obscene inflation that has occurred. We have, in Citrus Heights, have had to re-examine things that we thought we were going to do because of all the changes. And we can't do all those things. And I would probably guess everybody up here in their prospective cities and entities and whatnot have probably had to look at the same kind of thing. Things that we planned on maybe 5 years ago, totally different thing now. Totally, totally different thing. And you can't just escape that. You can't escape that. Something that was projected to be $20-something million has now grown to this obscene price tag of over $40 million. Somebody has to pay for that, and that's taxpayers. And even though we're up here as a board for regional transit issues and stuff like that, we're also up here with a responsibility to be prudent when we oversee how tax dollars are spent. And so there were some very good, important comments that I hope don't escape you, that to do this project would mean other projects are not going to occur. That's just the bottom line. And so you can't escape that. There is a system in place. It will be enhanced. I think we have that as a given. It will be enhanced, and it will allow for access to the light rail station in a very quick manner. You know, the time I heard was 10 minutes, and when I look at the map, I don't exactly see how it takes 10 minutes, but we'll give it, let's say, 10 minutes. And again, as we look to protect taxpayer dollars, it would not be, I think, in us taking our responsibility the right way in saying that there's another alternative and we should look at that and keep the big picture in place and not just this area. It wouldn't be fair to everybody else that lives outside of this area to redirect the funds that need to happen on a regional basis. That's it.
Thank you, Director. Anybody else?
Yes.
On the left?
Yes.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. So it was said earlier that later must be now. And when we take a look at how long this project has been on the books in order to get done, I think I saw all the way back to 2005. So for 18 years, we have made a promise that we have not kept. And we heard speaker after speaker come before us and talk to us about the inconveniences and what has not happened in their life, or how difficult it has to get an education, to be able to get to work, to be able to go on a job interview, to be able to go see family, to do anything. This is an area that has been redlined. And while I understand that other projects may have to stop because of this project, doesn't that happen in any time you do a project? That some other project has to then go and be the next project up? Well, how long? For 18 years, this has been that project that has been stopped because other projects have moved before it. And this community is a transit-oriented development that we have designed specifically in order to address the needs of that community that was redlined. So I just think we have to really stop and say, we got to do this now. This has to be now. This has to be the time to move is now, to affect the change, to commit to the promise that we made, and to just deal with the costs and what's going to take to be able to get it done and do the work that's necessary to bring the resources. If you continue to hold this project, we're not going to be talking about $40 million. We're going to be talking about 60. We're going to be talking about 80. We're going to be talking about $100 million. We're going to be talking about larger numbers than we're talking about today, because these numbers today are larger than when we first started the project. And so I believe later has to be now.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Yes, Director Laloy.
Are you sure?
Yeah, are you?
I'm not, so that's why I asked. So, just first of all, I want to thank everyone who took the time out of their busy schedule to be here and make some wonderful comments. But the number one concern that I've heard from every individual or resident in that area is public safety. And, I just want to be very transparent with you. Whether the light rail or first option or the third option, that's not going to help anyone with the public safety. The public safety is something that you have to make that demand from us, the council members of the city. And until we can figure out how to create that public safety, I assure you, a light rail is not going to provide that. So I want to, I that represent, I'm a council member of the city of Sacramento, so I owe you an apology that you're asking for this purely because it's not safe to walk out there. That's a shame. I have very mixed feelings about this. I do represent a district that has been overlooked for 30 years. Promises have been made, and nothing has been delivered. When I hear that, well, this is a project, we might not get to it now, but we get to it later, with all due respect to all my colleagues here, history has proven to the residents within certain areas that promises are made by elected officials, but they're never kept. As much as, again, without my apologies to all my colleagues, but that's the history of what we've been dealing with. But I'm also very concerned that what are we cutting if we support option one? And we haven't had a solid answer to that. Number two, regarding this funding, so far I've heard that if we go with option three, we can use the fund. In fact, we can come back and add to this fund and maybe exercise option one. Maybe. And also I've heard that if we don't use it for option one, that funding is completely gone and we can't use it for anything else. Do we have any definite answer on this? Is if we use this funding for option three, and then with the trust that I have in our CEO and how he finds money, if we use this funding for option three, and let's say in 3 to 4 months, CEO Henry Lee finds another 20 million, can we divert that? Or no, it's late? Because again, I'm so far today, I've heard absolutely not. This is, if it's not used for option one, then the $17.5 million is gone and it cannot be used for anything else. I've also heard that no, if we go with option three, 17.5 can be used for option three and ultimately can be scheduled for option one if we can find that gap. Can you kind of clarify that for me, please?
So SACRT is the subrecipient to SHRA on this project. I'll say kind of to preface this. So we're not having direct communication with SGC primarily on the substitute project. But from what we've read in the letters that have been transmitted, SGC is requesting the substitute project. So it could be presumed that they fully intend to go forward with the substitute project in good faith should we meet all their criteria. We don't have 100% certainty, but they have requested it, and we have begun working on it at their request.
Would SHRA be able to give us a little bit more of a definite answer to that since you are in contact with?
Good evening, Victoria Johnson with SHRA. So the grant funds are specifically now per the contractual agreement for the light rail station. It includes the $17 million from the SGC Transformative Climate Communities, as well as another $940,000 through the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities. So it's actually almost $19 million altogether. Those funds are specifically, again, per contract for the light rail station. Because the state wants to support our community and they understand that the light rail station may be at risk, they have offered us the option of proposing alternates. The alternates, as many have said, must be community supported. To date, through a series of over a dozen community meetings, seems like the Route 33 expansion is the preferred alternate. That alternate would not use up the $19 million. We don't know the exact cost, but it's more in the $4 to $5 million range. The alternate, we can't have our cake and eat it too. If we move forward with the alternate, we would not be able to then change our mind and say, oh, just kidding, we want to go back to the original plan. So it's the Fisher cut bait moment, whether or not we're going to move with option one or not. Does that answer the question?
So technically, an option three is up in the air. If we go with the bus route, we might get a portion of this funding, but ultimately not the rest of it.
Well, I'm basing when I'm saying the $4 million, that's based on SACRT staff saying how much the agency believes the cost of the new bus and the service would cost. I mean, that's where the number came from, and Laura can confirm that.
But anything beyond what the RT staff has shared with us, anything beyond that number will not be able to be used, or it's going to be gone.
We are still working to identify how we could use the funds. Folks have talked about bicycle sharing programs. We've talked a lot about providing transit passes throughout the neighborhood. So that would be a way to increase ridership. So we're looking at multiple options on how we could try to identify projects that the community supports that would, in fact, reach the 17 million, but we have not achieved that yet.
And thank you. It's then now made it even more complicated, right? So there's so many unknowns with this project. And then my other question is, considering we have approximately $1 billion in our books as far as service goes, would $10 million create that much of a consequences regarding the $1 billion in overdue services for our projects?
The primary issue that we were trying to raise regarding our ability to leverage those funds, right? That we have other projects that would be very competitive. Not that this project wouldn't, but we have other projects that would be very competitive where we could use that as match to go after another grant and potentially complete other projects. Whereas with this, we are filling a gap on this project and don't have any ability to go after additional grants to complete it because of the timeline issue.
So that would jeopardize future grants for RT if this $10 million is added to this project.
That's correct. And perhaps I should just clarify the $5 million worth of projects versus $17 million worth of projects. The original package that we put forth included improvements to the Route 33. It also included improvements to Route 11, increasing headway and hours and span on Route 11, Route 142, and 3 commuter routes serving the area. Thus far, based on the outreach that we've been able to do so far in this kind of compressed time period, the Route 33 was the most popular. So I think that's kind of why that's being plucked out as $5 million of the full funding package. I think we are being afforded the opportunity by SGC to continue working on it and come up with a package that the community would support.
And just to make sure, the new route, the option 3, will be in operation from 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning?
Yeah, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., I believe.
9 p.m., and that's 7 days a week?
Correct.
And these are electric buses?
That's right, 40-foot buses. I know there was a lot of discussion about capacity on the route, so we're proposing to increase that to a full-size vehicle.
And they're all ADA?
That's correct, low floor, yes, ADA compliant.
Thank you for now. I like to,
Oh, no, you're done.
I'd like to reserve my rights.
I just wanted to add one thing about the leveraging, to be clear about that. So when we're talking about leveraging, usually the match is about 20%. So 10 million could earn up to another 40 million for leveraging, just for perspective.
Right. Thank you very much. That definitely. Yeah. I still like to reserve my.
Director Maple.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a quick question, not to add more complexity here, but one of the other challenges that we have, right, is about this potential for option 1 is the potential for the SACOG money, right? That's still even though it's been committed, it is still a question mark until they have this meeting forthcoming. Is that right?
SACOG has indicated that the request would be approved, but yes, the SACOG board does need to approve it in mid-December.
Okay.
I'll just add, we have not seen any actual draft from SACOG of how they propose to allocate the SB 125 funding yet.
Okay. Well, Chair, I would like to please make a substitute motion that we go with option 1, but with the caveat that it has a report back to this body after that SACOG meeting. And so this can give us this opportunity to potentially keep the $17 million on the table and continue to work with our regional partners with that SACOG money secured.
Just to verify, council, does that satisfy a substitute motion? Thank you. Okay, we have a substitute to the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that substitute motion.
Who was the second?
It was Vice Chair Jennings. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I've got a few comments I'd like to make. First of all, as a user of the system, I've gone through different iterations of my love affair with regional transit. And, in my former residence, I was a light rail user because that's where transit was. I lived on, close to the City College stop. Since then, a few years ago, I moved out into the pocket, and there is no light rail in the pocket. And I've become a bus user, frequenter of particularly number 62. Woohoo! Thank you. There you go. You're awesome, Sarah. Thank you. But what I've learned is that, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to people, but I have this conversation all the time separate of this issue. And that's the love affair that people and the affinity people have with light rail, and they don't understand the value of bus service in this system. I mean, we are, after all, a transit district, not a light rail district. And that's our primary mission, is to provide the best transportation we can to the people who need it the most and those who desire to have it. Bus service does that. And for some reason, and it's not just here, it's nationwide, this love affair with light rail just confounds me when we do have, a great bus system. Number two is we're talking about enhancing that bus system that will actually have a stop closer to Mirasol than the light rail station will, when you're not crossing over what's a highway, basically. So I think there's a safety consideration there. And you know, I've heard some comments today. We need to provide mobility and transit options, Mr. Strecker. You're absolutely right. And I think bus service provides an option that actually gets people to where you don't get on and say, okay, I'm either going to go to Watt Avenue or downtown, but with the 33 expansion that we're talking about, I believe that we provide options to people that they currently don't have and wouldn't have without that expanded service, including the fact that it does connect, if should you want to ride light rail, to both the blue line and the green line, if we were to go with the expanded times and dates and days for the number 33. You know, somebody said this community deserves better public transportation. Totally agree. Every one of us agrees up here, I'm sure. And I think that the expanse of the 33 actually does that. And something else that was said was the funds are tied to option one. That was by the senator's staff. I just can't reconcile that as being correct. Or why would SGC, you know, come to us and ask us to provide options? If it was tied to it, I don't think they'd be asking for options. They would say, do this or you lose the funding. I've never heard that. I read the letter, and it's pretty clear that they're very interested in us spending this money in Sacramento on transit, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this project. So you know, and another comment was made about decreasing greenhouse gas. Now, eventually, these will be electric buses, so that's not really much of a point there. So I do wholeheartedly, I will not try to repeat anything that Director Singh Allen said, because I thought her eloquence was appreciated and thoughtful. But I overall do follow that line of thinking. So those are just my thoughts on this. You know, this is not easy. I understand what people are saying. If I look tired, it's because I haven't gotten a lot of sleep the last few days over this. And that's the truth. But so these are hard decisions to make, but I do believe that option three is at this point the best thing for the people in the community, and as well as for the district, the transit district as a whole, which we always have to consider. With that, I'll recognize Director Cerna.
Thank you, Chair. So, first of all, I want to add to my colleagues' expression of gratitude for everyone coming tonight and giving us some really articulate things to think about, and to make sure that we're not treating this as some kind of monolithic black or white issue. There's a lot of nuance to it, obviously. As many have tongue-in-cheek joked about it being more complex with every time staff comes to the podium, I think is not lost on any of us. You know, one of the things that I learned from my late father was that, you know, if you don't know some of that nuance, you find the people that are educated in it, and you seek their counsel. I think our staff have circumnavigated this issue quite a bit, more so than many other issues that come before this board in recent memory. And so first of all, I want to thank our staff and certainly our general manager for, I think, number one, bringing to us options. I don't know of a single instance in my capacity as a member of the Board of Supervisors or the other litany of commissions and boards we all serve on where we were not interested in options, because I think it's rare that you have just a singular way to problem solve. And obviously this is a problem. We're trying to figure out the best way to do this. And it's also rare that tonight I agree with everything all of my colleagues have said, whether they're supporting the main motion or the substitute, or now the substitute to the substitute. All of their comments, contributions, critical thinking is not lost here. I think they're all valid concerns. I will say that as the county representative, that again includes Marisol Village, the River District, and other far-flung parts of the city and county of Sacramento. Hopefully, judging by my questions earlier, hopefully you saw that I'm struggling with. How do you do what some have clearly articulated and advocated for tonight in terms of supporting option one, but at the same time acknowledge that there could likely be a cost to doing that later. And again, I ask those questions because I think it's critical that we be very sober about that understanding. That said, as a member of the Board of Supervisors, when there was a funding gap for Marisol Village, I believe it was Phase D, I was willing to go to the Board of Supervisors and ask my colleagues to support an ARPA allocation to fill that gap because of the critical importance of not just Marisol Village, but that entire specific plan for the city and for the River District. So I am a true believer in the transformative aspects of Marisol Village. I share a sense of pride as one of many elected of my colleagues that have been a part of Marisol Village. As Lachelle and others at SHRA know, the first place I lived in Sacramento was at what used to be called New Helvetia, which is now Alder Grove Marina Vista. And so I have a strong personal appreciation for what post-war public housing can do to provide you the ability to get back on track or to complete your education, get that job. And of course, transportation is critical to how those housing opportunities function. With all of that said, I am prepared to support the substitute to the substitute. However, I can also count. So this is how I believe it's going to go. I don't think the substitute is going to pass. I could be wrong, but that's what my gut tells me. And it would be my hope that when we come back to entertaining the first substitute motion, that even those that have been fiercely supportive of option one at this dais could find it in themselves to realize that I think it's important for us to speak with one voice as a board to move forward with preserving the ability to continue seeking the funding for a light rail station and to pursue what I totally agree with in terms of what the chair mentioned, the importance of bus service is in terms of an appropriate alternative. So that's my 2 cents, and look forward to the vote.
Thank you very much, Director. I just wanted to, one thing I did not say in my comments that I meant to, and that's that this in no way diminishes, just like so many I think everybody up here, our continued commitment, however this goes tonight, to our commitment to seeing that the station does eventually happen. It's just a question of timing in my mind. That's not speaking for anybody except for myself. Thank you, sir. Any others? Okay, with that, I would kindly ask Director Maple to, just so we're all clear, to restate your motion.
Sure. So that is option number one, with the caveat that if after the SACOG meeting, when they make that vote, that it comes back to this body for us to review if they decide not to allocate the money.
Thank you very much. Is that how the seconder heard it?
But is that even possible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we'll call the question, and please roll call vote. Oh, hang on. We've got Director hand raiser here. Director Lilloye.
Director Mabel, I like your substitute motion. However, I think the staff was fairly clear that if we go with option one, and for some reason SACOG does not come through, we cannot change that to an option three. We still have to go with option. At least that's the impression that I got from the staff.
Okay. I've actually called for the question, so let's do roll call vote.
Director Budge?
No.
Director Daniels?
No.
Director Hume?
No.
Director Jennings,
Yes.
Director Kozlowski,
No.
Director Laloe,
Yes.
Director Maple,
Yes.
Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Singh Allen,
No.
Director Valenzuela,
Yes.
and Chair Kennedy.
No.
The motion fails.
Okay, that takes us to our substitute motion. Director Singh Allen, would you please restate your motion?
Move forward with the substitute project, which includes the implementation of robust bus service, including augmentation of Route 33 and potentially other routes in the project area with zero emission, frequent service, while continuing to pursue new grant funding for the station in the future, which is option number 3.
Thank you very much. Would you please roll call vote?
Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Daniels,
Aye.
Director Hume,
Aye.
Director Jennings,
Aye.
Director Kozlowski,
Aye.
Director Laloe,
Aye.
Director Maple,
No.
Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Singh Allen,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela,
No.
and Chair Kennedy.
Aye.
Motion passes with 9 votes.
Okay. Thank you all for being here.
Mr. Chair, can
Mr. Lee.
I just, excuse me, I have been, not feeling good in the last couple weeks, and my staff worked very hard, and I just want to thank them. And also, I want to thank all community members, and I want to make very clear, I made the commitment, subject to board approval in the Senators meeting, try to, support option 1. I want to make that, clear, because this community is, heavily disadvantaged community. I talked to Congresswoman. Normally, we ask her to earmark projects, but this year we just ask this one, and she, graciously did that. I really want to appreciate Congresswoman, also, Senator Ashby. Also, the community, leaders and citizens here. But out of the proposal, majority of board members agreed upon, there is one caveat I just want to add. We needed to submit the SB 125 funding request to SACOG for SACOG to approve. That is what I promised in the Senators meeting too. Can we still submit a $10 million ask from SB 125, use as a local match or seed money, use that money to apply for federal and state money in the future? Otherwise, if we don't have the seed money or local match money, it would be very difficult to apply for federal and state money. So that is something I would like to ask. By the way, I promised Director Valenzuela, if I can vote, eligible to vote, I will vote number 1, but I'm not eligible. So that's my request is really, if you guys are okay with us continue to ask for $10 million for the local matching money or seed money in the future.
I have my answer, but Director Cerna?
I'm completely in agreement with that. I just look to our council based on the fact we just adopted option 3 and the general manager is alluding to option 2. In terms of noticing, can we just nod our heads and give that general direction? Is that okay?
Yeah. I think there's general consensus that, yes, go ask for all the money you can.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. And you got a few votes on the SACOG board up here, too, so. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. And to follow up what Henry said as far as staff goes, thank you all. It was a lot of work, a heavy lift, and I specifically appreciate some of you came in to go over a significant briefing of me on your holiday this week, and I sincerely appreciate that, and it was noticed. Okay, we have now public addressing the board on items not on the agenda, and first is Michael Bevins.
All right. How you doing?
Good.
This is
Maybe if anybody's interested in leaving, I can maybe parlay this and do this another time for an extra 5 minutes instead of 3.
No, you're getting 2.
Oh, this is unrelated. I made a speech for 3 minutes. Is it
You can
possible
come
to get
3 times.
I made a speech for 3 minutes. Could I get 3?
I'll give you 3.
Yeah, thank you.
You sat through this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is somewhat, as usual, unrelated to what everybody's talking about, so let's enjoy the diversion. My name is Michael Bevins. I'm a former or graduate of your Transit Academy, so I want to thank the board for presenting that Transit Academy. That was really enlightening for me. And I want to talk today about Sacramento Regional Transit with emphasis on the regional. I have a big picture and a little picture. The big picture is let's use our existing travel lanes, our travel network, to better connect our communities on the edges of our region by adding transit options that cross the region from one end to the other. Similar.
Can we roll the clock, please?
Oh,
Thank you.
Similar to our existing light rail system, but avoid the downtown area. We should create new spines or trunks or corridors that bisect our region, north and south, and east and west, with either a bus service or a train service. I'm thinking north-south should be Watt Avenue, all the way through. East-west could be A Avenue of Greenback, Elkhorn. The Watt Avenue corridor will provide, and so will the other corridor, a more reliable, faster commute with a few stops along the way, along major transfer points. Including the existing bus routes, and the Watt Avenue north-south line would connect 2 light rail stations for connectivity. This would go from Antelope down to Elk Grove. The same idea with the Greenback Elkhorn corridor. It will connect the Folsom station where it ends to the Watt I-80 station and provide another line possible to the airport as it passes through North Highlands, Rio Linda, and North Natomas. That's the big picture. Little picture is what should it look like at the street level. I have ideas on this, but not enough time today. So there are 2 projects you guys board are currently working on that should consider how the final product layout of these designs would look to the whole network. For example, the proposed green line to the airport. Where will the tracks go? I see, if anybody looks at a map, there's a path for the most of the line. The tracks are already laid out, and good planning, well done. But my question is, but for the Truxell Road part, south of the freeway, north of the river, there is no obvious path. So my question or suggestion is how you plan this section, you should consider how it would relate to other areas in our network. Whatever you work out planning-wise could relate to the north-south route or I'm proposing or the east-west route. You should plan this route, or this section, as if you're planning other sections in the region. Same thinking with the proposed bus rapid transit system down Stockton Boulevard. If these new corridors will be with buses...
Can you wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm at the end here.
Thank you.
If these new corridors will be with buses before, instead of, or before trains are introduced, how will you plan this bus rapid transit system the same way as future corridors that I've explained?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for participating in the Academy. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having it.
Kay Harris?
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Chair.
Thank
I believe we're going to get what we want in the end.
Thank you. We hope so.
Thank you.
Chair Kennedy, we're having trouble with the timer too, so I'll just beep when.
Just throw something at me.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. We're family. Here I am again. Goodness, when you put me on the spot, I really get nervous and clam up. But I still appreciate you all. I just wanted to say again, thank you. There was a community dental event on last week, and RT partnered and provided free bus service to the event for anyone that wanted to attend. So you all do amazing things. I know you have to make hard decisions, and everyone will not be pleased with that, but there's so many good things in between that we are grateful for, and so I do want to share that with you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's my auntie. All right, I take it Jeffrey Tardigui is not here. I do not see him.
He is online.
Oh, he is on. How did you get home so quickly, Jeff? You must have taken one of our buses. Jeffrey?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, because of the concert down there of the Kings, it was diverted. So anyway, I did end up in the Sac Valley. But for my 2-minute comment, the first one I will offer to the board is you've dealt with one situation and why did it take this long to realize the 33 needed to be enhanced? The second thing I'm going to tell you about that is you've got in the future Broadway. You've not done enough planning and concern with that, both for dealing with bus stops as well as the construction. Last week, it blocked both sides of the street, and you have sections that until the operator got on it, you didn't know that, in fact, bus stops were unavailable to ride on it. Third thing I will ask is, I believe if you check with Deborah, we have nearly 100 of the Transit Academy available and have gone through. That is good, and I appreciate the fact that we brought up that concept many years ago, that it bore some fruit, and you have now close to 100 people that understand more about RT's transit service, what it needs, and can maybe advocate better for what it does need to have in the future. I understand from Henry why the grasp of we need more money. At the same time, we can see here the end results. And again, I will offer
30
with
seconds.
more public comment, you have a better decision to be made. Tonight was another example of it. You don't do enough of those. You should next year plan for at least 2 or 3 workshops to bring public involved with this board so they know the common concerns and other directions that need to happen. I don't know the timing of it, but I am also going to turn around and chastise you, Mr. Chairperson, because you have changed policy limiting public comment and limiting public statements. Because how in the world you have to wait for another month to find out what was last made at the last meeting of public comment if it is written, not stated in the meeting? You
wrap
also
up?
changed
Can you
again
wrap
the
up,
order,
Jeffrey? Jeffrey, can you wrap
not
up?
at the beginning. And if you're telling me my time's up, my time is up.
Okay.
But board, again, I will say you need to do a better job. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'll try to get better. That takes us to item number 8. Are we going to have a general manager's report?
Have a wonderful night.
Oh,
Thank
bless you, sir.
Chair Kennedy, Director Valenzuela has her hand up.
Oh. Director Valenzuela. Director Valenzuela? Okay. All right, in the meantime, we'll go to,
Patrick?
yes, okay. I believe that Director Laloy hasn't spoken this evening. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair, finally. Again, I want to thank everyone, but if I may make a suggestion, I think the idea of having projects as big as this, a workshop would have been great in advance about this, so we can just kind of share some ideas so we'd be a little bit more prepared for tonight. So again, I think the staff did a phenomenal job, but a workshop about this topic a few months ago, knowing all of our limits and all the boundaries would have been greatly helpful. So thank you.
I absolutely agree with that. The whole issue come up is because we normally always get extensions on the grant, but this time because of state limitation, budget limitation, we could not get extended. I did not say when everybody were here. We applied for the $21 million TRCP funding this early year. Before we submit the application and after submit the application, I talked to the chief person who managed the whole program. He said he is going to try his best to make this happen, to award to us. But later on, after they did not award to us, he and I sat down together again. He said the evaluation team was very interested in this project. However, they focus on the state of good repair and urgent maintenance needs. But he said, next year, please apply again. So it's really about the timing. This is a very unique situation. If we had more extension, I'm not going to make a promise anymore because I made that, then I get a lot of criticism against me. So, hey, Henry, why did you make this promises or commitment? I feel, not so good about that.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Henry. Director Daniels.
Yeah, just very quick. As we've listened tonight, and that speaker that just talked about those super lines, I'll call them, these people who had concerns about getting from point A to point B in safety. And as we look at enhancing the 33, I would hope that we would maybe take the opportunity to also look at, again, the aspect of contracting with Uber and Lyft and how that could play into enhancing service along those areas. Maybe that could be a pilot program. Just something that I would hope we don't just close our eyes and have a wall against the aspect or the idea of those kind of things, because I believe they can save a whole lot of money.
Definitely, we will do something like that. I also want to echo Director Koroska's idea about we should make this happen earlier. I mean, I'm going to ask your staff to say if this is within my authority without going to all type of public comment or public hearing process. If I can do that, I think I can. I have the flexibility to do that. We can make that happen less than 6 months.
Great. Good.
No, yes, I mean, okay, so I'm sorry.
Okay. With that, I want to thank everybody. Everybody was courteous and professional and much appreciated. I would expect nothing else. And we're adjourned.